Need the 1 second. She already got it. All right. Okay, so we should be live. Hubba, hubba, hubba. And someone already beat you to the retweet. That was disgustingly fast.
Oh?
Yeah.
Oh, dang, yep. Who was that? Wow.
God bless those people in your timelines who will just give the stupidly fast.
Here's the thing, I had your account open on my phone.
Not everyone can be that fast.
Oh my gosh.
Well, now we get the funness of the pre-show starting. So while I'm waiting, we're gonna have a little pre-YouTube question for you before we do a clean open to the show. Ozzy, I don't know how I've not asked you this. Where does the revived Ozzy part of your name come from? How do I not know this?
Okay, so there's a funny story to that. So this Twitter account wasn't made after the first Okumura video went up, but it was I took over it like a week later. So the thing is, I have been more careful now. Maka said to look at your messenger.
I do. Yeah, I do have Mac's thesis video pulled up.
Yeah, but so I was a lot less careful on my Twitter in terms of understanding how Twitter terms of service work. And so my friend Chi, since the video, I've said this before, like, was very much a meme in my friend group before it even came out. It was just like, oh, he's gonna make the thing, he's gonna make the thing. He says Persona at the start. And so he made a meme of it and sent it to me through Twitter. And I just responded just very directly, just, I am going to kill you. Which, if Twitter understood the context of we are mutuals, maybe it would have given me a fighting chance. But no, my account just kind of got suspended permanently after that.
Nice.
My friend just had a backup account. They were like, oh, you just want this? I'm like, sure. So I couldn't use my old handle, so I was just like, oh, well, we just call it Revived Ozzy. This works. I thought about changing it, but
I love that, like, it had an actual thing. I was just thinking it was just gonna be like a no reason at all.
No, it's got quite the backstory to it.
God bless.
Very integral lore.
Okay, well, give me 1 second. I want to double check how hot and bothered our audio sounds, and then we're gonna just get this nasty show started, because God only knows how long this is gonna go. Oh, well, I am glad that I started this, because no one could hear your entire story. Nobody could hear your story, so that means now it's going to be the bloopers for everyone. So that means everyone will have to download the audio version and hear that sweet story in the bloopers. Well, perfect. Then I'm glad that I have now thought of this so that I can say I'm surprised nobody can hear you. This is the fun part of it. Oh, you heard the story. Then I wonder why my YouTube was telling me we couldn't hear the story. Here, hold on. Let me try that out one more time.
That really does.
Also, yes. Okay, the story is on there, so never mind. My YouTube playback was just being a real sneaky boy about it. So thank you, everybody in the live chat. So also glad, Ozzy, I'm very glad you liked the countdown. When I thought of that like last week, I was like, this is probably gonna get old to some people, but for me, it's so funny because how genuinely sad it is.
It is a legitimate because the thing that really makes it set in is that this game got announced a day after Royal officially got announced. Mm-hmm. A day. And we're already, like, months after Royal's American release, like, the Western release, so...
Good signs.
It's been a journey.
Good signs by all. So let's just get this dumpster fire episode started. Before I get started, shout out to everybody in the live chat: Derp Lord, Liam, Papyrus, Penguin, Larry Harry, 481, Mirth, Kooky Chris, Harry Larry, who I probably said, but boy, that's a fun name to say, and Golden Playhouse. Let's just get this started, because we got a whole bunch to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link 186. I am your host, Spencer Presley, and joining me this week is a very special guest who reports are coming in now are saying he is the reason Persona 5 Scramble is trending on Twitter. Ozzy, how's it going today?
It's going good. We're still waiting.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we have our fix here with the other Muso. So,
would you like to try saying the word Muso over again? That seemed like it was genuinely hard.
My brain froze for a second. Maybe my heart really can't let go of Scramble. Maybe it's not as easy as I thought.
Well, either way, well, now I'm just going to be thinking of you holding an unexisting copy of Scramble in your hands while My Heart Will Go On by Cher's playing. Not Cher, Celine Dion.
I think we've just broken reality with this intro so far. Nothing's gone as we planned.
Exactly. It's a hot and steamy Tuesday night in the Midwest, and by that I mean it's finally feeling like fall. How is the East Coast weather treating you?
It's Florida. It's either 108 degrees or it is drowning. Or both.
So do you guys what is your fall equivalent of weather?
Fall, it's still summer.
Okay, that sounds like the actual worst, because, I need hoodie weather. Hoodie weather is, my zen.
Hoodie weather's my favorite. We get it for, a month.
Oh, that's so depressing. See, I'm really stubborn where, I'll make hoodie weather go into winter, where I'll just start slowly getting, frostbite while everything's going on.
Yeah, because my whole thing, since I was, in middle school, is, man, I would really like to move literally anywhere other than Florida, because unlike half the population here, I like the cold. Genuinely. Every time I go to a cold place, I'm totally fine. It's great. Even if I'm there for a month plus, it's great. Everything here sucks. It's too hot. But the moment it goes under 70 degrees, people would start screeching at my school.
Okay, so then important SMT related question. The next Atlus game where they're making whatever team, it takes place in Florida. What is the story then? How do we make an Atlus game in Florida a reality? What's going on?
All that's coming to mind, because Devil Survivor is the most recent game I've been going through. I was just imagining Devil Survivor, but instead of essentially the apocalypse in 7 days, it's just 7 days of an increasing heat wave.
What would be even more funny? Devil Survivor 3 is actually just the 2020 presidential election in Florida, but for the entire year of 2020. So instead of it being a week, you have to survive an entire year.
Of course, and then it's all leading toward here. That's where we can bring in the gods and mythos. It's all leading towards the flood of Noah. There we go. We've done it.
This is your weekly reminder, everybody, to play Devil Survivor 1 and 2 as quickly as humanly possible.
Please do. It's a great time.
So, let's just get into this, because, as is tradition, apparently, if I complain there's no news, I will find a way for news to exist into the world. And in a week with still no Atlus news, the most kind of just out of left field thing happened today. I was at work, literally filling up gas in my car, and I just see in our Discord somebody posted in there a Nintendo video. And if you notice that the way Nintendo first announced this, the video isn't, "Hey, Hyrule Warriors 2 is announced." Nintendo says Nintendo presents a special 10-minute video thing, and it's just the weirdest video of them just hey, Breath of the Wild 2 isn't ready yet. So we have a whole nother thing coming, and at this point I have no idea what to expect. I'm thinking at best Hyrule Warriors DLC, at worst another Hyrule Warriors, something is coming, but probably will just be an extended version of 1 coming next year. Instead, we find out that Nintendo has been keeping an ace up their sleeve this entire 2020, apparently. and that Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is coming out this year in 2 months and 12 days as of this recording, and my brain still can't get over the fact that it is a honest-to-God sequel to Hyrule Warriors and a prequel to Breath of the Wild, two of my favorite Zelda games of all time.
That's the thing, because it's more, from what we could tell, a like pseudo-sequel to Hyrule Warriors, because based on their descriptions and what they've shown, it seems to be a lot different. Like, one thing I've really liked with recent Musos is how much they're willing to change up the formula to better emulate the series they're in. And this one seems like it's taking a lot more from Breath of the Wild and just like Zelda in general than the prior version. And obviously, you know, it's a prequel to Breath of the Wild itself, so it's going to be just this full-scale, maybe open-world war that it's... I don't know. I woke up, and the first thing I saw was you were like, "Hey, Ozzy, look at this." And I'm like, what's this? I'm groggy. This is a crappy morning. What? Oh! So yeah, it's...
that O needs to get sound clipped out for every time anything of worth happens this year.
Absolutely.
So I guess really let's take a step back really quick, because obviously the reason we're talking about this, outside of being huge Zelda fans, is the publisher and developer. Sorry, not the publisher. The developer of this being Koei Tecmo, and how this is going to relate to Persona 5 Scramble. But I think it's important to give a little bit of context, in the sense of, I didn't even know that I had really had many other friends who played Hyrule Warriors. So before I give my history with it, Ozzy, what is your history with Hyrule Warriors, which I cannot believe after this year, I think the series is 6 years old?
Yeah. Huh. I'm getting old. I mean, it's the most simple thing, looking back, of essentially... You know, I owned a Wii U. And if you know anything about Wii U owners, we didn't have options. We just played what we were given. Granted, again, I was a Zelda fan. I'm not like the universe's biggest Zelda fan by any means, but I've always appreciated the games, played most of them. And this game got shown, which I barely knew anything about actual, like, original Warriors games. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Zelda, but you kill 500 people at once. And I forget, I think I bought it at least the first week it was out on Wii U. And I really enjoyed it. But not to the extent that I do now. I was like, this is a good game. Like, I enjoy playing this in my free time. This is super clever and fun. And then I kind of forgot about it for several years. Then randomly, like, last year or a year before that, because Deluxe had been out, I was like, oh, cool, you know, like a Switch part of this game. That was nice. And it kind of hit me, like, thinking back and, like, going through videos. I'm like, wow, this is one of the most creative and awe-inspiring homages to Zelda that's ever been created. I need to get this right now. And then I sunk, like, 400 hours into Deluxe, or into the Definitive Edition. And here we are now.
So you totally skipped Legends then, huh?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I saw Legends when it came out, and I was like, oh, cool new DLC characters. I didn't even realize until, like, a couple months after that released, I'm like, oh, they added those characters to the Wii U version and said nothing about it.
Yeah, what was really funny about it is, and we'll talk about DLC in a minute, but not only did they add all of the characters from Legends and Legends DLC into the Wii U version back, but it was really weird of, like, Wii U was like the best place to play for the longest time, but all the content, like the maps and stuff, for all of it was stuck to the 3DS version. So it was like, yeah, you could play like free play mode on the Wii U version with these a lot better character models, but like everything else was stuck on Legends. That's why Definitive Edition was like such a like perfect thing when that finally came out, of like everything's in one package. It's got a couple of extra quality of life features, and everything's just
loading
like on the
menus
Switch.
are like a second long at most.
Yeah. So, little trivia question just to test your memory. Do you remember what the pre-order bonus was for the original Hyrule Warriors? It was split up between 3 different retailers.
Oh gosh, I honestly have no clue. Was it like was that the Sia costume?
No. That was given out like in an update actually. So for launch, if you pre-ordered at Best Buy, GameStop, or Amazon, you got either a Skyward Sword, Ocarina of
Oh,
Time, or a Twilight Princess DLC pack.
is that how they initially distributed that?
Yep, and then later on they sold them for like I think $1.
Yeah, because I bought all the DLC before Legends came out, so you know, I I had experience with all that. I didn't know about the pre-orders for that though. That's cool though.
Yeah, I always like love little like weird retailer exclusive things. Like it's less fun when it's just one because then it's kind of exclusionary. But when it's sort of like spread out to like weird ones, like Matabi brings up a great one in the comment. Never forget Best Buy Nanashi DLC. It's like just like all these like cringy ass like costumes and stuff for it. But that's really interesting. You skipped Legends because I easily sunk the most time into Legends out of all three versions. I've owned every version, but what's really funny is I bought Wii U at launch, played the holy hell out of it, and when Legends finally came out, it was such a out of left field thing because Koei Tecmo had done Warriors ports to Vita and 3DS at the time, but they were always like, if it was on 3DS, it was definitely like a kind of watered down experience. And Vita sometimes could keep up with PS3, and that was about it. So 3DS always had like that harder technical challenge to get past, but for whatever reason, like you could tell they did as much with that system as they could, and some might even say too much, because obviously it wasn't a new 3DS exclusive game, but it probably should have been, considering how bad Legends ran on OG 3DSs.
I was about to ask, which I can see how like why they ported Legend or made Legends for 3DS because 2014 and 2015 was a pretty weird set of years for Nintendo. Yeah, 2014 through 2016 they were on I don't even know. I felt like they just kind of gave up. But I've always wanted to wonder, since I never actually owned it, how bad did it run?
So actually, I never had a chance to experience it. Okay, this is sort of weird. I never played the final retail version of it because I had a new 3DS, so really what reason was there? But they released at the time in Japan only a 3DS demo. And I remember when I got my SMT4 3DS, I downloaded that demo just to see what it was really like. And it is literally, you're playing the game at half the frame rate. The menus are all a lot slower. Like, you feel like you're playing it on a DS. Like, it is that much of a downgrade, but it is still completely playable. It's just not going to be as fast and snappy as the new scenario was. But, I mean, in terms of just, like, as a technical thing, even watching it on the new 3DS, like, it's still a rough-looking game. But what was so funny is either way, I sunk into that version alone over 250 hours, I think, of Legends, just with all the DLC, all the maps, because I bought both season passes for both games. And what was so funny is when the Switch version finally got announced, I was like, this is perfect, this is the ultimate version of this game. But I've already sunk like a bajillion hours into it. I really don't need to go through it again just to see it with better graphics. And I didn't pick that up until like maybe 3 months ago. I finally added it to my collection because my fiance is a huge Warriors fan as well, and she finally beat Fire Emblem Warriors. And I was like sitting there kind of like thinking one day of like, this is a good excuse for like me to finally own this and like give her what I think is the better Warrior game to play out of the two. And so now, while I'm going through it at a much slower kind of pace for it, playing through it all co-op finally is a lot more fun and kind of gives me a better excuse to like sort of go back. And now that the sequel's been announced, I'm even more motivated to go through everything again just so I can kind of compare leading up to November.
No, I absolutely feel that. Like, I feel like after today, I'm just gonna drag my brother over and we're gonna try and, again, definitely won't get anywhere close enough to be, rounding up to 100%, but we're gonna make more progress in the game and try to get all the other stuff, because that game is pure addiction for me.
Now, I don't know if we talked about this too much on the past time you were on the show. Do you have much else experience with other Koei Tecmo games or Muso games?
I think you did ask that. For the most part, it is just like, well, not sitting through any of them all the way. I've played a good handful of, I think, 6, 7, and 8. I still haven't played 9 for Dynasty. And I played
no reason to play 9. You're good. You can skip that one, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know. And I think I played, I forget which Samurai Warriors game I've played, but I played one of them. Beyond that, I played Fire Emblem Warriors to completion. It was very subpar. Not the worst thing ever, just I would rather play any other good Warriors game. And I own One Piece Warriors, Pirate Warriors, the third one. I still need to play it, though.
Yeah, Pirate Warriors is actually one of the better standouts, I think, before Hyrule came out. But even with everything going on in terms of games, until Scramble came out this year, Hyrule Warriors was my definitive go-to of, even including mainline. Like, Hyrule was the best game that company had ever made. And on top of it, like you said before, it lands the crossover stuff and references the way that every game kind of hopes to be when it's a crossover, but inevitably sort of fails. But like just in the sense of like graphically, presentation wise, the soundtrack alone, which I'm like playing even now on the live stream, of just like the soundtrack alone for both of those games are just so great. Like, I remember my only actual complaint when the Wii U version came out was that it was such a pain in the butt to play co-op. I remember it was, like, way more overly complicated than the Switch one was. Like, Switch was, like... Because you would think it's just like, hey, press start, like every other Warriors game was, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it was, like, a technical limitation thing they had, but it was one of those weird cases of one person has to be on the gamepad and one person has to be on the TV. Like, you couldn't easily do...
on the gamepad.
Yeah, like, no one wanted that. Like, the gamepad's a fine controller. Like, that's how I play most of...
It's
like
very comfortable.
But it's, like, not how you want to do split screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, stuff like that was always, like, such a bummer. And I remember then going into Scramble, when I saw Scramble was single player only, I was like, dang. Like, I get it, the way it's designed. It's a lot more open. It's going to be harder to design around that. And I cannot tell you how excited I was when I saw that Age of Calamity is confirmed already for split screen co-op. Yes.
Oh, frig, yeah.
So, like, the fact that they're
really scared.
So the fact that they're continuing the formula they started with Scramble this year, and now getting back into, hey, we're still going to do co-op, because there was a few years where, I don't even know if you noticed, when Dynasty Warriors 9 came out, they didn't have co-op until, like, I think 9 months later.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, so, like, they were sort of getting away from that, but that is, like, one of those, like, core selling points of, like, yes, playing these games for hundreds of hours to completion, getting people all the way up to their max level, or even just playing, like co-op is just super... Like, even a good example going back to... This isn't technically Warriors related, but it is Koei Tecmo crossover. Just look at... I don't know if anyone here in the chat, or Ozzy, if you've played much Ultimate Alliance 3... I was replaying some more of that just because I needed to wash the taste of Marvel's Avengers out of my mouth. That game is just so fun. Like, every time you're, like, playing it, it's just, like, it gets everything you want from, like, a Marvel crossover thing of, like, my favorite moment was playing it with Mary, my fiance, and every time a new character came in, she was like, oh, do we get to play as that person? And the answer was always yes, you gotta play as that person. It was so fun of just like, does it make sense that Ghost Rider's here? No, but everyone wants to play as Ghost Rider just because it matters doesn't need to be a big deal. It's just like, they know how to make like great rosters.
No, I still really need to play Ultimate Alliance 3 because 1 and 2 were my jam as a kid. So...
There's a really, really funny story behind that of Nintendo... What was it? Nintendo pitched the game to Marvel first. Nintendo said... so Nintendo got the rights, like, alright, Marvel was like, alright, what game do you want to make exclusively for the Switch? And Nintendo was like, we want to make Ultimate Alliance. And then they brought it over to Koei Tecmo, and Koei Tecmo was like, we want to make Ultimate Alliance 3. They're like, you don't want to reboot it? Like, no. We're going to keep it going. Even though we're a totally different developer and a totally different publisher, for no reason at all, we're going to make this the third one.
It also doesn't follow the story, does it? For what I can
tell, it doesn't need to, but I love that. Just because, like, it's just such that thing of, like, it's a comic book. Like, what does it fucking matter? Well, so it's like, go for it.
The funniest thing to me was, I think it was Game Awards 2018 where that got announced.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching with some friends, And all I was thinking was when it got showed was, one, they're bringing this back, in two, I'm like, how many people are watching this who are like, what's an Ultimate Alliance? How is this the third one?
How funny was that, by the way, that 7 months after that reveal, that game came out? Like, what a weird turnaround time.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so I guess taking a bit of a step back, though, so Hyrule Warriors Calamity is now announced and everything. After you saw the trailer, what has been your big takeaway for you personally from everything you've seen?
I just think the concept they chose for the actual setting is so obvious in hindsight, yet is ingenious. Like, because one of my big things with Breath of the Wild is, while it is a phenomenal game, maybe not my cup of tea as much as most other people, but it's still phenomenal. I was always like, well, this story is great, and I do like the redemption aspect of it. There was something much more fascinating about the 100-year event we entirely missed of this massive war against Ganon. And like several people would even be like, oh yeah, they should have set the game there, and Breath of the Wild 2 should have been Link comes back and fights Ganon. Which, who knows? Maybe this game's going to hint towards some stuff in Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh, 100%. Like, there's no way this game isn't going to have, like, the post-credit sequence is basically going to be a soft-core trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. But, like...
And then once that game comes out, we're getting our DLC, so...
Ooh, oh my god, yeah, dude. Like, without even getting into speculation, yeah, the roster for this game has me, like, moist with anticipation.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, just, like, thinking about it of, like... You're right. Breath of the Wild has like a lot of different kind of faults, but the one thing most people will universally kind of all agree upon is that its most interesting piece of story is never talked about or properly explained. Like, the story is pretty much the biggest letdown.
Of it.
Exactly, but it's like everyone wanted to see the war as opposed to the aftermath. Like, the aftermath's great. Like, that makes an amazing setting, but you're right. It's like the equivalent of Breath of the Wild was our end game, but we never got the Infinity War.
Exactly, and the few glimpses we get of said Infinity War are the best parts of the game.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I hope that they're very aware of this going into it. I think Aonuma made a great point in terms of picking who to make this kind of war setting like game. Like, obviously, like, the warrior type games fit really, really well with all the large scale battles. But what's so funny about it is, like, I love a lot of the development teams at Nintendo. Story has never been their, like, strong suit in almost any of them, really. And, like, as much as I love Breath of the Wild, I wouldn't have trusted Breath of the Wild 2 to be like, oh, don't worry, they'll handle the very story-heavy part now. Like, if Nintendo had announced that they're making Age of Calamity in their own way, I would probably be less excited than I am now, because, like, I know that...
You trust them.
Yeah, like, I trust them in terms of their storytelling and to kind of, like, how much those teams are working together. It's like, it's what you always want to see in terms of, like, companies working together of, like, hey, Atlus couldn't have made Persona 5 Scramble. So they contacted, or Koei Tecmo contacted them, because, like, they know that's not their strength, but they both still work together in terms of the story, the characters, the way things look, to make that experience. And, like, that's everything we saw of, like, this takes place in the world of Breath of the Wild. It doesn't, because, like, when you're looking at Hyrule Warriors 2, it doesn't look like Hyrule Warriors 2. It looks like Breath of the Wild, which is a big point.
That's the thing that shocked me that still doesn't really register for me when I look at the game. When you look at something like Persona 5 Scramble, yes, it very much matches the aesthetic of Persona 5 and Royal, but you still can tell it's not those games. It very much has its own kind of style to it, whether it's due to the engine or just how they designed it, where it is very distinct in its look. This game just looks like Breath of the Wild. It's just Breath of the Wild.
What's the funniest part about Scramble to me that I know obviously not as many people can kind of get a see with it? My problem is when you play Scramble, depending on what platform you play it on, you have two reactions.
Yeah.
Playing on Switch, you go, this looks just like Persona 5. Playing it on PS4, you go, this looks way better than Persona 5.
Yeah, I still need to get to that demo, because even just the footage I've seen in 60 FPS kind of breaks my brain.
Yeah, you can't go back, which is the problem. But that's why it's always like you got to start with Switch and then never touch it again after you pick it up on PS4, unless that is like your go-to system, which obviously, it's gonna run fine. So just like kind of basic starters, I gotta ask this question now: For you personally, do you think this game coming out in November is like a smart move? Do you think it's going to be too crowded with other stuff? I personally think like it's like a slam dunk because it's like it's such their own kind of thing. Zelda already sells, Breath of the Wild already super sells, and like the type of game is going to be so different than all the other heavy hitters that month, like Cyberpunk and like Call of Duty and like Assassin's Creed.
There's no way this game isn't going to sell at least 10 million copies. I'm just saying that out the gate. Probably more. This game is going to be a massive hit in my eyes. Because even... Okay, Hyrule Warriors was already pretty well in terms of how it sold. For one, being a Wii U game and a spin-off of a series that not as many people are familiar of. And it wasn't even directly based off any game. Now we have this being a prequel to one of the highest rated and best-selling games ever. That literally was like a system seller. And it is a move so that even just seeing the combat, for people who do or don't know, one, it's Hyrule Warriors, it already has a name by now, and people who are just invested for Breath of the Wild are going, oh, it's this, but it's the War Arc, awesome. And it has so many factors going into it, I don't see how this thing can't be a massive success.
Well, on top of me agreeing with you, I think the chat is basically low-key demanding you need to play the Scramble demo. Let's be real. What outside of playing old games like Catherine, what has been stopping you from playing the Scramble demo, Ozzy?
Touching my PS4 since like May.
Yeah, that'll do it for you. I keep telling like. I was telling For It What in our Discord earlier today, because he's very big into like PC gaming, and I was like, don't worry, dude, you've already waited this long at this point. By the time you'll finally get to Scramble, it'll be like 4K 120 frames on like PC. It'll be like the most amazing PC port you've ever seen of your life.
Yeah. Also, yeah, Senior in the chat basically summed it up. Yeah, one, just me working on videos. Two, Toradora. That's about it.
Now,
which is also gonna just go back into me making videos.
I have 2 words for you then. Toradora Warriors. How do you react to this?
You know, as I am upset by how easily I can visualize that concept. It's not even funny. Because again, I don't know if you've seen the show or not.
I've seen enough of it. Like I'm aware of the concept and everything. Yeah.
They would have to get excessively creative about it, but they could find a way. Just have it. You're in a school just fighting a bunch of bullies. I don't even care. I'll deal with it. Just beat up hundreds of students. This is fine.
I mean, we already have games like I almost feel instead of it actually being like a Warriors game, it almost sounds like it would be better as like one of those. Did you ever play any of these Senran and Kagura, like small arena beat 'em up style games?
Not before, no.
Okay.
But I know a lot about them.
A lot of fan service in those ones.
Of course.
Is it true you joked about Toradora Warriors this morning?
I don't remember anything from this morning.
So basically, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity gets announced, and it's just like a white noise happened until now?
Yeah, basically. I was in a car earlier. That's about all I remember.
The trailer started while you were in the car, and the next thing you knew, you were home. 13 children in the hospital after this, but Ozzy's pretty hyped.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah, going back, though, into, like, how do we think this is doing, like, holiday sales? So, obviously, it's going to do well for, like, Nintendo, as it's, like, their only really big holiday seller, not including Mario, because obviously Mario is going to have those legs from launch until when it's pulled in March. Pikmin's going to do whatever. No one will help or hinder Pikmin sales. Pikmin's just going to
Pikmin will do Pikmin.
Yeah. It's just so funny. Like, so if you had to get asked, gun to your head, why do you think they waited this long? Like, it just seems so weird to me. Of like, people have just been waiting for like that one big title this year, and we were all worried up until last week. I mean, even last week, people were thinking that a Mario collection was all we're getting this year. That's notable. No offense, Pikmin 3.
That is the weirdest thing to think about. The big Nintendo game this year is Hyrule Warriors. Granted, that's big for me. I just don't expect that for anyone else, because that's the game I've been trying to get all my friends to play to no avail. So that's a complete shocker, but I have no complaints.
I
Like this
highly,
video.
I highly, highly, highly recommend to anyone listening to this right now, if you don't have a copy of Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, definitely track one down because that never got a second print run, and I bet you those copies are going to start flying off shelves for people who want
No,
to like
yeah.
start playing it.
That is arguably the most bang for your buck game you'll ever buy, in all honesty. Like even more than like Persona 5, where it's 100 hours of gameplay, has nothing on Hyrule Warriors with its 1,000 hours of gameplay. So it's worthwhile. Just do it.
Yeah, it's like especially weird because that game actually bucked the trend of bad season passes are always bad. Because like not only did
Mhm.
it do season passes better than any game has ever done a season pass in my personal experience, like it did it
Yeah.
2 times, like back to
Imagine
back.
imagine a season pass that actually tells you what's going to be in it before everything releases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was just
Oh my
like
gosh.
I remember like the Zelda fandom and the Warrior fandom, we treated each DLC reveal like a Smash reveal. I remember when Marin got added, like people were freaking out because like at that time you never saw Link's Awakening stuff getting like mentioned, and that's what was one of the
Yeah.
biggest disappointments with Scramble in terms of its post-release support of like take this company who does amazing DLC, work them together with this company who does terrible DLC, and you would hope that the better heads prevail. Because like think about all the awesome fan service DLC that Scramble should have gotten, and it's just kind of been laying in anguish, which has been like kind of the painful part of its like post release.
Yeah. I We can only hope for Scramble to actually catch a break these days.
Yeah, so I want to start getting into Scramble talk with you now, just in the sense of obviously as we mentioned at the start of the show, I think actually it and obviously I'm probably skewed because of like my Twitter and stuff. If not as many times as Hyrule Warriors was mentioned, in terms of the trending, I saw all day that Scramble was trending about it, and I thought that was
Yeah.
just so funny. Of like, a how true that is for like how stupidly long this wait has been, but like, can you just think of a more moment of like this is why Spencer doesn't shut up on Twitter every day about Atlus. It's not because I'm some dumb entitled fan who's like, "Mer, where's my game?" No, it's because
Doesn't make any sense.
they keep making themselves look worse. No one's out here being like, "Where's our release date?" Like, we're not acting like this needed to be like Hyrule Warriors. Like, we're not
No, just
expecting
tell me.
exactly, like because they've said nothing, everything is going to just like look so much worse for them every time, which is why I was so surprised when I started, and I still keep talking about how Hyrule Warriors is just going to take away whatever fanfare this game really had going into it, and especially as we're getting to later, like if this releases before Scramble, congratulations, you'll have lost 90% of your Steam from new customers. Like, it'll go back and do a
Yeah.
thing of like, okay, the only people who are going to buy Scramble were the people who were already going to buy it.
Yeah. Man. I just because I'm just thinking about like when Royal got announced. I think it was, I forget if it was you who tweeted out or Senior. It might have been both. But like Royal in the West immediately after it got announced in Japan, or at least like not too long after, Atlas West Twitter was just like, "Hey, Royal's coming eventually. Just a logo. You can look more
And and
into it if you
that's
want."
and that's their MMO. Look at it for almost every title they've done. Royal, look at Nocturne HD, look at SMT5. All of those releases were always followed up by a Western confirmation of some sort. So like,
Mhm.
why out of everything this one crossover ends up sort of being the big deal is just so bewildering to people, and the miscommunication is like next level bad right now. There are people out
Yeah.
there who think Koei Tecmo's publishing it. There are people out there who think they're localizing it. There are people out there thinking that COVID is the reason the game isn't able to get dubbed when every other game this year has been able to get dubbed, including Atlus
Yeah.
titles. So it's like I have to almost just like kind of not breaking moment, but this moment of sort of bashing my head into the wall of having to just like sit back and think about it. Like, why are Atlus fans giving such a break to this one company when literally every other company is able to do what Atlus apparently can't do and all their fans said. Now, mind you, Atlus has only ever said once that COVID is affecting their work with 13 Sentinels in terms of the voice recording, and they've never once said that's affected anything else.
That I was about to actually mention. You ever think about the fact that 13 Sentinels is definitely coming out before Scramble?
I think about 13 Sentinels on a daily basis in ways that truly make my heart hurt. Like how today we are 2 weeks away from that game coming out in the West, and we just now got the English voice cast confirmed. Right. And it was just like things of like, okay, thanks.
Well, isn't the dub coming out like a month later or something?
Nope.
It was like an update.
Day one.
Oh, they actually got it in?
The dub's been done since August. The dub was done before... Okay, so the dub was done... This is all from my knowledge I've had from people who have worked on the project, because I'm trying to get either people from the voice recording studio or the actual voice director on the show to talk about it, because this is such a mess in terms of like timeline, and God forbid anyone actually talk about it. So the game was submitted to Sony in terms of getting the disc printed in late July. The patch went through cert for voice acting. It's a day one patch. That went through in August when they announced that the voice patch was going to be coming day one as a patch. And also Spencer started complaining, hey, if it's a day one patch, why didn't you just wait and print the disc at the same time? But hey, whatever. So yeah, it's just been this huge thing of like no one wanting to talk about it, so you not talking about it acts like you don't really care about it. And it's this whole thing of like, even in the Discord almost every day we joke about how 13 Sentinels is going to be lucky to sell 13 copies.
Yeah. I worry for that game, but I already know it's doomed.
It makes you just kind of wonder like what's going on of like... The Atlus theoretically obviously has one game they have publicly announced is coming out this year. Obviously, Atlus is basically Sega. Sega has also 9 million other games coming out. Yakuza is a much bigger priority. But it's like from the outset, it looks like Atlus is doing one game this year, and they're barely advertising it at all. So like, it's so weird to me of like, I don't know how many people out there follow Atlus staff members, but whenever Atlus staff talks about 13 Sentinels, you would think that this is their baby. Like, the way Atlus, like, PR and other, like, localizing members talk about it on Twitter, they're like, I'm so proud of this game. It's, like, so amazing. And, like, I've heard nothing but amazing stuff about how great this game is. But what sucks about it is, like, they talk about this game like it's such a pride to work on, and then you look at their marketing and all they can be fucked to do is every month put out a trailer or two and then show a character shot and go, look at that art. It's like...
I was going to say, my big thing is I've been trying to follow the announcements for the game as best as I can, and it says something about the marketing when I'm still not exactly sure what the game is.
Yeah, and it just sucks. It was one of those moments too of like the guy I retweeted today on Twitter who literally I loved that I got this message because he's technically so not wrong, but I thought it was so great of the guy who replied to one of my comments on Twitter and just being like, do you do anything besides complain about Scramble and 13 Sentinels on this account? And it's like, well, for starters, you're not wrong. B, like, it's one of those things of like, I'm the most vocal about complaining because it's like, it should be these people's jobs to be making these games look like the second coming of Christ when I've seen more care and work put into marketing at a Dollar General than 13 Sentinels.
Atlus West marketing will never not be upsetting. I don't think they have one win under their belt in that regard.
I don't know how you feel about this, but it's so funny of like, I remember I had a couple of panels I was doing this year before everything went down at conventions of Atlus 2020 and like what to expect, because from the outstart of this year, this should have been their biggest W. Like 2019 was a pretty wet fart of like all they really had was PQ2 and not a whole lot else. And then, like, this year, after Royal, it's just been, like, total downhill. And, like, what do you think has been, like, the cause of that?
You know what's extra upsetting about this fact? Because of COVID, we obviously like E3 was shut down, so all the announcements that would have been at E3 have been split up throughout the year. So people are like, we're at a dry spell of announcements, which I disagree with, because we've had basically at least one game event like of announcements every single month, if not two. But every single time it's like, okay, is it finally time for Scramble? I think it's coming this time. And it's even more disappointments every single time. Instead of one big convention where, oh, Scramble was an announcement, what a bummer. It's 30 announcements where Scramble isn't announced, and it's just a bigger punch in the gut each time.
Like, I think a good way to sort of like rectify this and kind of put it into retrospect, think about this. You just beat Catherine on Switch. If I told you tomorrow, hey Ozzy, when did Catherine come out? Would you remember that game came out 2 months ago?
Full Body?
Full Body came out 2 months ago on Switch.
Oh, you're right, it did!
Yes!
On Switch, yeah.
Let that sink in, world, of like, the one time they were at an event to market anything for Atlus stuff, it was
for Full Body.
Yeah, and like, never forget, everybody. Like, seriously.
No, you're forgetting Persona 4 Golden announced at the PC Gaming Show, of which everyone turned off the stream seconds before it started because it was already dropped on Steam.
God forbid. I mean, I think someone at the Steam servers was just doing us a favor so we wouldn't have to watch the PC Gaming Show.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it is just like so odd to me. It's just so odd to me of like the year they've had in terms of like, and like you're saying, like there are so many events, if not every month, almost every week, and like,
yeah,
look at the few moments we have of them showing up at stuff of like, while everyone and their mother, obviously by the sales numbers, wanted P4G on PC. That wasn't like a thing we like met with like, oh my god, Papa Atlus finally delivered. Who knew we wanted this? Like, all of their PC news should always just come with a yadoy at the end of it. Like, that's why like I always get so triggered when I see like news articles come up like Atlus shares with the shareholders that they're really looking into that PC market. It's like you can't be surprised when your whole fan base is shaking your neck like Homer Simpson to like get PC games when they, guess what, buy PC games. And then like looking back at other stuff like New Game Plus Expo will probably go down as like one of the worst showings of Atlus this year from something they clearly paid an intern $10 to attend for them.
No, yeah, they just got someone who was really bad at Catherine to play the first few levels of Catherine, and that was about it.
Oh my gosh.
Like a week before the game released.
Also, I am very, very disappointed that I did not get the Jackbox party code while the PC game show was happening. Just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm just gonna spam you with the streams every time now. You brought this upon yourself.
Dude, Jackbox is just like one of those, like, I can never get like tired of playing those. Those games are just like, those are timeless.
Actually, okay, complete tangent now, because since when has this been about a Warriors game? Have you played Among Us yet?
Is that like cover up like the murderer game? Because like I saw I think I've seen people playing it like on, is it on phones?
It's both on phones and on PC.
I've never touched it, but I think I know what it is about. Like, but it intrigues me just because of its popularity.
No, yeah, it's just one of those games that you can just play infinitely until your brain gives out. Because it is essentially, if you ever played like Mafia or Werewolf, or even like Trouble in Terrorist Town, it's just one of those, but it's arguably the best one.
I am so old, I've never heard of any of those games. I'm not even kidding you.
Oh, wow. You've never heard of Ultimate Werewolf, like the card game?
Never, ever. But I'm going onto the App Store now and going to download this.
Alright. I'm just gonna steal you one day so we can play Among Us. Yeah, because it is essentially just, there's just a secret.
This is so weird. It was literally the first thing that popped up on the App Store. Like, as soon as I opened up the App Store, it was like, you want to play Among Us?
I get, pardon, before we go back, just pardon the tangent. So the weird thing about this is, did you hear about the Henry Stickmin collection that it came out?
No. Are you just making up games now?
So basically, I guess for some history, so Henry Stickmin is a set of Flash games that are kind of like choose your own adventures, but it's just really well animated stick figure adventure titles of depending on the results you get really comedic like failures and whatnot. But so those games have been pretty popular. They had just released, I think like a month ago now, a HD remaster of all those games along with a final game in that collection, which got super hyped up. You know, all the big YouTubers played it, did really well. What I presume happened is that some random streamer just kind of was like, hey, what other games has this company made? And they found a game that had like 3 active players from 2 years ago, and it was this. So this has been out for 2 years and nobody knew about it. And the player base went from like 15 people to 1 million a day.
That is pretty insane, especially considering how much of the chat is just like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I am 100% down for any of these games to stream with, because God knows I have nothing better to do with my life than play Tony Hawk.
Perfect. Oh, I've heard those remasters are really good.
Beyond too good. Also, it was really fun because I got to explain to my fiance, who completely missed all of those, like, that era of those games being popular. I got to explain to her like the world of skate culture for a little bit, and tell her that like I actually used to be into like skateboarding quite a lot because of those games. And it's just so funny of like her like looking at these games, just like, is this what it's like really like? And it's like, no, it's like this super arcadey, but it's just like too much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we somehow ended up on Tony Hawk. What a tangent.
I mean, it's a clear trend from Warriors, Scramble, Among Us, the Hawkman. These all flow.
Do you think we've just uncovered a secret connection about what the first DLC will be for Scramble?
I do want to actually ask you, because what's so funny about Hyrule Warriors getting announced today, this is one of Koei Tecmo's projects they teased last week when the TGS lineup got announced. They said, we're going to have a couple of projects and we're going to have 2 new Warriors games. So this is obviously one of them, and makes sense that it was announced before TGS, because Nintendo doesn't really do TGS for announcements, but obviously this is a game that's going to show up there because they're already going to be showing off games, so they might as well, even though they're not a Nintendo-owned company. So that means we have one other game, and I don't know if you watched any of our prediction show last week. One of the big predictions I had was basically the Persona 5 Scramble Benedict Royal Edition of, like, we're doing an Extreme Legends Mega DLC pack for Scramble, and that's why the wait has been so long for the West. And I'm curious, like, how you would feel about that, if you think, A, that should be a thing that happens, and if not, what do you expect the other title to be? Because, like, at this point, that's my only, like, thing I can give Atlus. I'm like, if you guys knew an extended version was going to come out in 9 months, I'll understand it.
It was the ultimate birthday surprise, basically.
Yeah, like that's the only way they're going to come out of this looking like the good guy. Otherwise, the 2020 will forever be known as the year where the game everyone knew is coming gets announced, and they get basically treated like Squidward at the talent show on SpongeBob.
You know what? This isn't something I thought about. However, if it does happen, all the goodwill will return to Atlus, at least as much as Atlus deserves. However, I am extremely doubtful of this. I would be elated to be told I'm wrong, but for all we know, they're just gonna announce like Pirate Warriors 5.
But like, just imagine the hypeness of like the screen's black, and you hear the Japanese voice actor for Maruki speaking, and you just get to see Phantom Maruki fighting in 2-player co-op with Wolf on the screen, and it's just like, here it is, we've added co-op, we've gotten all the characters from Royal, we've got Goro, we've got Kasumi.
Please no.
But it's like...
That's a little too much.
But that shouldn't be that as sad, because it's like, for this company, like, for them to add like 3 characters who were already missing from the game at launch, it shouldn't be that big of an ask.
I trust Koei Tecmo. Maybe they're gonna pull through for us, but at the same time, Atlus just makes me sad a little too often.
They do.
So
yeah, they do.
Now I have to watch TGS. That's another one. Again, people say there's been no announcements in 2020, and I raise my shoulders extremely high. Uh, but
I
yeah.
would just love to know who these people are who, after all of these months of online showcases, have seen all of these shows get announced and not a single thing has gotten them hyped. Because, like, for me, I always pride myself on finding at least one or two things to get me really excited. Even from, like, the weird stuff, like the Ubisoft forwards. Like, there's one of those happening this week and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like for you, taking the newest one of today out of it, looking back at all the events from 2020 so far, what has been like Ozzy's hype announcement of 2020 that like when you saw it, like you like flipped your shit?
In terms of like events, I hmm, I think the easy choice for me is honestly being I don't know if PlayStation fanboy is the right phrase, but watching the PS5, I almost want to say reveal, but then again,
The
it took so long for
the
that thing
game
to get
showcase for
revealed.
the PS5.
Yeah, no, because I know a lot of people said it was disappointing. I would say at least half of the announcements had me cheering.
I
Because
screamed
that's when we
and had
got.
chills when I heard Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man, and I didn't even know it was Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, Senior is right. I did extremely pop off at Lego Star Wars. I already spammed you about that. Um, but yeah, because that one, the big one for like what Resident Evil, Demon Souls, Ratchet and Clank especially, that's absolutely up there for me. Even stuff like Bug Snacks, which looks so stupid, yet I am already so in. Um, so yeah, that's definitely the one that had the most bang for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and then there was the Xbox showcase, which I just posted 50 Scott the Woz images to show my very muted reaction.
I just love it. Out of that week, my biggest reaction from that whole Xbox event was I remember I was sitting at work when Halo Infinite got delayed, and I actually screamed like with laughter. Like my coworker like looked at me just like, "Oh my god, like what's wrong? Like what super funny thing just happened?" And then I had to explain to this like 50-year-old man that a video game company delayed a big AAA video game, and it's so funny to me just because I know how screwed they are for their holiday lineup.
Yeah,
He did not find it as funny as I did, but it was just one of those funny moments of like that's a crazy like love it or hate it in terms of news. Like 2020's had some crazy news. Like if you
wild.
told me in 2019 the Xbox would be launching not one but two systems without Halo, I would say you were high.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Xbox, I feel like every console release, it's just they're exclusive. They keep saying that they're gonna focus more on exclusives, and they keep doing worse every time. So you know, I'm hoping for a win for people who are dedicated to Xboxes, but I don't see it coming.
They at least have one that definitely keeps getting slept on this year. I'm super surprised about in the form of I think a lot of people are not aware that Microsoft paid Sega a shit ton of money for Yakuza 7. Like
Mhm.
Yakuza, because remember Yakuza 7, while it is coming out day and date on PC and PS4, the only way to play that on next gen consoles is going to be on Xbox.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so Sony they'll get it next year, but they don't get any like they're basically won't even be any footage. Like my guess for all of Microsoft's TGS showing is it's just going to be showing off Yakuza and saying, "Hey, you remember that game that came out as a PS4 exclusive in January? Well, guess what? It looks even better now, and you can only play it on Xbox." Which, say what you will in the West, that's going to be a big hit for people in Japan who are now going to be launching for the first time worldwide with the Series X and S and being like, hey, if I want to play the best version of one of our most popular games of all time, Microsoft is the only place to do that.
And yet, honestly, they probably still won't, but we'll
I mean,
see.
it's tough. Like, remember they've got other big games as well. Like they have Fantasy Star Online 2's next big single player mode that is also exclusive to Xbox.
Hmm. All right, maybe we'll see. We'll see how Xbox does because they do have a decent. It seems like they are actually trying to uh, I guess, tease Japan and be like, "Oh, come over here. We actually have stuff now."
That's why I kept thinking how funny it would be if Scramble, when it finally gets announced, would be announced an Xbox event, just because you would see the hypocrisy crumble beneath its feet of the break free Persona movement. It'd be so funny.
Yeah. Oh god. I do find kind of a tangent. I do find it funny. We haven't heard Break Free Persona mentioned much in a while. That's all kind of cooled down. Yet at the same time, I feel like that's even more appropriate of a term now than ever. Of like, you know, I don't feel like Break Free Persona matters as much to, you know, it getting on a Nintendo console, because that's not really expected. Can we just break it free to the West already? Just give us Scramble. Break free Scramble, boys.
Crack free Scramble eggs. Crack free, please.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, kind of going back to my TGS thing, I wanted to ask you. So then, you're in the camp that you think the Scrambled Benedict Royal Cumberbatch edition is too crazy to be happening at the end of this month?
Most likely, but I kind of want to believe.
So if you had to guess, then what do you think Atlus is going to be showing then at the end of the month, or is it just going to be Nocturne?
I could believe Nocturne. At best, we might get some SMT5 showcase of some sort. Because how close is Nocturne?
Nocturne comes out next month in Japan, and probably within 6 to 9 months in America.
Okay. I could see an SMT5 showcase. If not, they might just... Yeah, it's probably just going to be a Nocturne trailer. If it is Mega Scramble, hey, I'm down for it. I'm down for any announcement that Atlus is going to drop. But yeah, most likely Nocturne. Hopefully SMT5. Yeah, slightly more hopefully Scramble. I was gonna hesitate on that, but I can wait a little bit before 5.
Okay, so let's say this then. Give or take, whatever happens. Now, actually, I'll break this up into 2 questions.
Okay.
Persona 5 Scramble, does it get announced by the end of this month? More specifically, like we talked about before the 26th, when Hyrule Warriors gets its next showcase. Do you think it will get announced before or after this?
Wait, repeat that?
So, the 26th of this month, after TGS, Nintendo said they're going to do a Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity showcase. They're like, we're going to show more footage after TGS. So my guess is probably, if not a showcase, at least a direct kind of focused about it. Do you expect that we get Scramble officially announced finally in the West before it, which is also going to coincide with TGS, or after it?
The contradiction is I kind of do really want to believe that Scramble is going to get announced in the next month before, what is it, like, September 26th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 18 days from now.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think so. Maybe.
So
Let's hope. I think it's happening now.
And it's so sad because, like, at least for me, I'm literally a broker. I've been saying the game has been supposed to be getting announced since May, at least on the record, which is just so insane. Yeah. So then, for you, either way, whenever it does get announced, at this point, do you see Scramble coming out this year as being the smart move or not?
If they're gonna wait that long, it'll probably end up being like a January release, so they might as well just wait for next March. If they're not gonna release it now, I'd say just wait for next spring season. It'll be kind of stupid comparatively, but it's still something. Anything but January. Please don't release it in January.
What's making you scared of January?
The trend I normally see with this stuff.
Like all the crazy AAA games that got pushed out of fall launching in January.
Yeah, it's like the post-Christmas craze of, we got all our gifts. All right, nothing for now. Let's just wait a bit. And January is just like the dry spell where everything comes to die. That's where like all the terrible horror movies get released. I've noticed that. It's just the effect of, We have nowhere to place this. Sure, January. Let's go.
God bless Red Letter Media's always appropriate video. Fuck you, it's January!
January!
Thankfully, video games are at least the opposite of, like, good games I always think about coming out in January, like Resident Evil 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, just, like, stuff like that. But, yeah, like, all the garbage fire movies are coming out in January.
Well, I feel like the difference is... Resident Evil 2, I feel like, was the exception, where I didn't expect that to actually do as well as it ended up doing.
Senors, what's wrong with you? We talk about good January games, and the first thing you bring up is Mario U Deluxe.
Point proven, except that game actually sold like freaking hotcakes.
It's just because of the Bowsette meme. That's the whole reason.
But yeah, the difference is Kingdom Hearts 3 is Kingdom Hearts 3. That's all you need to know.
I love Kingdom Hearts
3. I wonder why it sold. No, I don't mean that in terms of bad. I mean, I wonder why it sold well as being a January title, because it's Kingdom Hearts flippin' 3.
Another one that's a good example of like a kind of a middling title, but I bet a lot of people have already forgot it came out in January. TMS Encore.
I think my point still stands then.
That's true. So for me, kind of wrapping up my point with it, I think... See, it always sucks because, like, there's... And I don't mean this to be, like, high and mighty Spencer's PR god over here. The smart move would have to have announced it 9 months ago, and then release it in October. Technically, actually, the smarter time to have released it would have been this summer, like in Asia, when there was literally dog days of summer. There was no big titles. Like, if Scramble released in July, it would have totally murdered. Now it's going to be going into the fall.
That was right after most people finished Royal.
Yeah. So it's going to be really, really tough now of, like, everything is late. Like, no matter what it comes across as. So it's like, yeah, October's its only chance of making sense because... Basically, if you look at Sega and Atlus lineup, September, we have 13 Sentinels. October, Free Space. Yakuza 7 in November, Puyo Puyo Tetris in December. So they have a whole calendar lineup set for the fall with October open. But at the same point, is it like, why are you... Then is like, why are you only giving the sequel to Persona 5 less than a month, if not 2 months, of marketing time for its release? Like, why not act like it's a bigger deal? Like, at least even in Japan, Atlus Japan didn't market Scramble until Royal was almost 1 day out from being out, and even that was 5 months before release.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. Let's say it does release in October. In order for it to sell as you would hope, they would have to pull some miracle in advertising. But, see, that's an inherent contradiction.
Yeah.
We're talking about Atlus West.
Yes.
So, if it releases in October, it's gonna bomb. Probably not as bad as the dancing games, but it's gonna bomb. So...
It's, It just sucks because, like, this should be... Like, look at Atlus with the sales they had with Scramble in Asia and Japan. It is the best-selling spin-off of the entire franchise. And in the West... We're pulling teeth to get even a napkin with its name on it. So, like, I don't know, like, if there's just, like, some weird internal politics, but, like, the fact is, I'm in this point where, like, I genuinely feel if this game gets pushed to next year and has no major content added to it, and is just the same-ass game that came out in February, it's going to look really, really, it's going to look really, really just kind of like whatever in terms of the general mainstream who, for the most part, were the people who jumped onto Persona 5. Because, like, guys, I've got a bit of a controversial thing to say. Persona 5 Royal only sold well because it was called Persona 5. It wasn't that the people buying it looked at all the things that they were at and went, whoa, you see this red-haired chick? They got a grappling hook? Man, that's pretty fucking sweet. No, it's like, Persona 5, like, I was thinking about this as well recently, of, like, I was trying to think of a good way to, like, put this out, and I'd be curious what everybody thinks, let alone with you. Tell me I'm wrong, Internet, but... If Persona 5 Royal was the base game we got in 2017, Persona 5's review scores would be the same It wouldn't be Royal's review scores. Persona 5 Royal, if it were released in 2017, would get the same review score as the vanilla game got. And I just can't see any way
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of a weird effect to it, which this is kind of a side note.
Oh, I'm sorry,
something
Hagane, you'd be my favorite person. Hagane in the chat just says, imagine like the one dude watching the trailer for Royal, be like, dude, they got Kichi Joji! Oh my god! That's an SMT reference! There's darts! There's fucking darts!
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but like, oh, what was I gonna say? It's kind of that thing for me where you're like, yeah, Royal would have reviewed the same. I absolutely agree, which kind of, although a slight tangent, goes along my thought process of, there was very much the thing that there's like the Atlus fans who are like, Persona 5 is a very watered down Persona game. Persona 4 is much better, has a much deeper story and characters. And in my opinion, both those games are pretty on par with each other. Maybe not in the gameplay department as much, but in terms of like story and whatnot, I feel like they're pretty equal in a lot of regards. So my thought has always been, what if Persona 4 and Persona 5 were essentially swapped in history? Because regardless of what content's actually in the game, I almost feel like Persona 4 would have gotten the exact same reaction if it was just the later game.
110,000%. Like, another great example for this is, like, look at Uncharted 2 and 3. Uncharted 2 and 3 are both amazing games, but just because one came before the other, 3 will always be compared to 2, even though they are almost interchangeable with how, like, good they are.
Yeah, they're both pretty on par with one another. It's just fantastic games. And then there's 4. Anyways.
Another great game featuring the always hard to cast voice actors of Troy Baker and Nolan North. You never see those two together.
Oh, how we miss them.
You gotta love the honesty that Troy Baker and Nolan North have of, even on their own YouTube channel, they couldn't stand being around each other for over a month and they had to get away from each other. Oh my god. So the ace in the hole that I kind of want to bring up for Atlus, just to give them a little bit more credit before I kind of get into our main talking point of, is Hyrule Warriors going to kill this game or not, no matter really when it comes out, is Atlus has one chance if they want to release Strikers/Scramble and have it not be basically swept under the rug and sell as many copies as 13 Sentinels. Obviously, I'm half joking, but still, same point kind of goes with it. And that's next gen. If they have been keeping an ace up their hole sleeve, I'm sure they're keeping things up their holes wherever they want. If they've got a scrambled egg up their hole, and they can release this November on Xbox, Xbox Series S and X, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC, it would be like such a coup. That series, like, because Persona has never done a port like that before, but Koei Tecmo could easily make that happen. They do that with almost all of their games, so it's not that impossible. It's, by the way, how sad is it that the only way an Atlus game could go multi-platform is if another company made the game?
Yeah.
But if that happens, I think you'd have the hype of a new system that would actually push it over and actually could lead to it selling better than Royal. Just due to the fact of, like, look at all the millions of people who pick up a game at launch for next gen and go, holy shit, I need something to play. Like, look at me. I bought Injustice when I bought a PS4. I do not even give half of a shit about NetherRealm games, but I picked it up because I was like, I want something to play, and this is the only 2-player game at launch that's not fucking knack. And hey, I found a pretty good, like, fighting game. Injustice was good. I'm glad I picked it up and gave it a chance. But if it wasn't for the fact that I had no games to play at launch, especially, like, fighting games, then I probably would have never touched that whole series. Like, so I don't know how you feel about that playing, but I think if they have just been shutting up this whole time to make Scramble a next-gen launch game, that's their last chance they have at selling gangbusters, if not getting laughed out of the room.
I mean, I do want to quickly note, there is something inherently comedic about us just grasping for the fact of, please, Atlas West, you have to have this grand ace up your sleeve. You're totally planning some big, massive release, and that's why you haven't done it. Trust me, you're gonna have a PS5 port with all the new DLC. You're gonna announce the Scramble sequel right then and there, and Persona 6 comes out today. It's time.
It is so sad that we have to say that, because honestly, one of my things that, like, I hate that
optimism.
I hate that I can't just, like, ask them, because, like, I know people who work in marketing, but I can't just be like, give me a public statement. Why are you so inept? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, literally, like honestly, you know what I'm gonna do? If they just, when the time they finally announce Scramble and is just the base ass game on 2 platforms, I'm gonna do this. Have you ever seen Billy Madison?
Yeah.
I'm gonna find that clip of the game show, and I'm gonna put, and I'm just gonna post that and go like, this is the most idiotic answer I've ever heard in my whole life. Like, this, you were so wrong. You didn't even understand the basis of the question to begin with.
Oh my, I just don't get it. On the off chance, though, that it is a PS5, Xbox Series X release, then yeah, it's gonna do really well. That's like its only chance. Unless they, again, pull out some Messiah-esque miracle, that's basically the only chance it has to blow up. Do I want that? Yes, because if PS4 already looked that good for Scramble, I need this.
Imagine the Digital Foundry video of them just going through every version of that game as it just keeps getting better and better.
I don't know. I want that, but will it happen? I don't know if even God knows that answer.
So, yeah, obviously, this has just been the definition of grasping at straws, but, like, I try to be as optimistic for this as possible, because, like, I wouldn't be as vocal about this game if it wasn't, at the end of the day, a quality video game.
Yeah.
Like, we're not sitting over here asking, like, man, I can't even, like, think of it, like, of a game where it's just like, well, why are you guys putting, like, so much attention behind, like, X, Y, and Z or whatever?
Because I feel like there's, like, a difference between, there are those games that, think of, like, Half-Life 3. Everyone's like, oh, like, well, not anymore. I think people don't even remember anymore. Actually, Alex came out. But otherwise, like, for years, people were just like, Half-Life 3, we need it. Half-Life 3 now, Half-Life 3. But that was a game that we had seen nothing of, and even if we knew the quality of, like, Valve at the time, and, like, the quality of the prior titles, it's still, like, you're begging for a game that you don't know if it's happening, and you haven't, even if you did, you haven't seen gameplay of it. This game's already out. This is a released product. It's just only in Japan.
Guys, I could spoil all of the story right now in this live stream. Like, it would not be hard for me to, like, just speak the entire story of, like... And also, we haven't even gotten into, like, the actual, like, elephant in the room with, like, the game waiting so long. How many people do you know who've just been like, oh my god, dude, this game is never getting fucking announced. I'm just gonna import it. Like, imagine how many sales they've lost because people are just like, fuck this. It's a Warriors game. I'm just gonna import it.
Also, I do want to quickly note, remember earlier when we were talking about, I think before stream, that one of our careers was going to potentially end on this stream?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the Pandora's box you're unleashing if you spoil that game.
No, I would never do that. Although my favorite part of it was when playing through it. If you go back like 9,000 years ago when I was playing it in February, I spoiled every boss in that game with no context spoilers, which are like my favorite things ever. I remember I think that started like, or at least I knew about it after like Infinity War. So it was like take like random clips or like GIFs online and to be like, hey, this is a spoiler. You just have no idea about it. So like if I say overweight Elsa, you don't know what I mean, but in like 9,000 months you'll understand what I mean when why I posted an overweight Elsa clip art picture, and you'll go, oh, that's why he posted overweight clip art Elsa.
No, don't turn us into marketable plushies, no.
I did think of a very good like comparison for a game of like, I wouldn't be simping this hard for a game that's not out or announced yet because it makes sense. Like flip it with 13 Sentinels. if we found out 13 Sentinels wasn't getting brought over to America, that is such a inherently niche and Japanese-centric game. Like, I'd get it. It'd be a bummer, and there'd be a vocal audience for it, but it's like, I get it. It's not going to be for everybody. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, you're trying to make... It's like, you're having people wonder what the sequel to White Bread is. It's like, we're gonna buy it! It's white bread! What are you waiting for?
Mm-hmm. There's just so much mystery and pain that comes with this whole scenario.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we will all look back on this and know that none of it was worth it. There's almost no chance anything they've been holding off for is actually going to be like, and it was all worth it in the end.
Meanwhile, we're looking at the counter where it's just sitting at 2,000.
Well, I remember one of my favorite things was like a couple of weeks back when, what was it? One of my favorite things was when the patent office approved or renewed Scramble or Strikers, and someone had tagged me. I think it might have actually been Mac. Tagged me and said, "Spencer, your days of tweeting about Scramble are finally up. You must be so happy." And I'm like, "What do you mean? This is like I tweet about this every day. What else am I going to tweet about if Scramble gets announced?" Beginning. It's like I'll be out of material. It's like, what am I going to do now?
Now you only have more motivation to tweet about it because there's even more confirmation that it's happening.
That's so true. It's also like just little dumb things of like, I'd love to stream that game more. I streamed it once on launch day, but like I felt weird streaming like more past like the first jail, just because obviously I don't want to spoil anybody. But it's like, man, that game is really fun to like one of the things I really want to do is like I'd love to stream myself platinuming that game, but it's no fun if I'm just spoiling everybody.
No, yeah. I don't know. The most original statement of all time. I really want to play Persona 5 Scramble. Who would have guessed?
I know. Well, wrapping this back all the way to the Hyrule of Hyrulist Warriors, I promised something earlier today that I would be reading through. Mr. Mac, the Mac himself, had some, and when I mean some, I mean a lot of thoughts on Hyrule Warriors, because I didn't actually know how much of a Hyrule Warriors stan Mac is, but we're all about to find out with my dramatic reading of not one, not two, but this man made 11 points and wrote them out to me.
Wow.
So here we go. Here's Mac's 11 Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity takeaways. Number 1, I'm hyped as fuck. Number 2, seeing as Hyrule Warriors 1 implemented traditional Zelda well into the gameplay and Al Numa was impressed by this, I think that Age of Calamity will be incorporated much more with the Breath of the Wild mechanics, such as the glider, the already shown time when dodging last second, and maybe even cooking. I did not even think of cooking. They could add a lot of cool stuff with cooking.
I do want to quickly note, I guess to quickly bring it up, the ladle.
The soup weapon?
Pre-order bonus. Yes, the comically large spoon, aka the lucky ladle, is the digital pre-order bonus. And it did mention that you can fuse it into other weapons, which Hyrule Warriors did have a fusion mechanic, obviously for like just buffing up different elements into your already existing weapons. But the way they described it made it more so sound like a almost crafting system. I could be wrong.
It's tough because we could see it going almost either way. Yeah, like if you're looking at like Scramble has like mechanics of like its equipment mechanics. They basically oversimplify everything into it's the exact same as Persona 5, where you just buy whatever's the newest item in the shop and you never really have to think that hard out otherwise outside of finding it as a quest reward.
Yeah.
Point number 3, the map seems to have been completely ripped from Breath of the Wild. So my guess is that it'll mostly look the same, but with everything being rebuilt to allow for maps that'll work better for warrior-style formula. Number 4, we don't think that it'll be open world because how hard that failed the last time in the Warrior game. Great point. Nobody played Dynasty Warriors 9. But instead of maps will be much larger and more vertically, showing the exploration aspect as well as making use of the glider if included.
Mm-hmm.
Point number 5, the game will be way more story focused than Breath of the Wild, as well as better written than Hyrule Warriors 1, because it will actually be canon this time and isn't fan fiction.
Mm-hmm. Though, granted, that Hyrule Warriors story is, for what it is, shockingly good.
Oh yeah, I love the story, especially if you play the Legends updated storyline with Linkle's stuff in it. Like Linkle was like the best part of the
Oh
story.
yeah, Winkle is beyond entertaining.
Which, like, man, there's a really, really, really big part of me that just hopes that they're allowed to make like one canon character for this game, or at least like make someone
Please.
as crazy as it. Because like, even if it was just like
That's
make a Breath of the Wild version of Linkle, and I'd be so happy. Because Linkle was basically just Dante.
okay. There's something before we keep going down that list. There is something I did want to mention before that's been on my mind. So they did say, large, vast list of characters, but all we've seen are 6, maybe 7. And what my thought might be is this is going to introduce, because Breath of the Wild has all of these characters we've seen just in the past, and they're all just different species and interpretations of races we've already seen in the series. What if they just double down on that and just try to put their own spin on like 10 other races from the series and whatnot, and just completely go ham in that aspect? I would have no complaints.
I would love that, but I think one of the things that it's kind of at Zelda's core DNA, in that they would have a hard time getting away from, or Koei Tecmo would have a hard time getting permission, is Aonuma very much has like a vision of that world, and Zelda is always, there's like the Hylians, there is the like Kakori people, there's like, it's like you've got your subsect of people, and we've never really added anyone that kind of crazy or different since Ocarina.
That's the thing for me though, because I remember one of the big things when Breath of the Wild 2 got announced, which obviously these are going to incorporate into one another, but one of the big things was that, people analyzing the, like 10 seconds they showed of just Ganondorf, but they were like, oh yeah, this is incorporating elements from basically every single era of Zelda, and seems to be mashing them all into one in some way. So I could see this still, because Hyrule Warriors is probably the best celebration of Zelda as a series we've ever gotten, even if it's not a traditional game. I could see this still going forward with that legacy, and at least in some way interpreting, tons of different eras of the series to further, I guess, back up the lore of this universe.
Are you ready for the $1,000,000 question of this game? At least one of the first things I thought.
Sure thing.
Are Koei Tecmo going to have the restraint to not make Breath of the Wild 2 Ganon playable? Because you got to think, do you save that for the sequel? Because that's going to be such a big element. Or do you show them off?
Remember what I said about DLC?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, that would be, like, perfect. Yeah, like, hey, if you pre-order or if you buy Breath of the Wild 2, you get Ganon in Age of Calamity. But it's just one of those things of, like, imagine it. If this game launches and there's no playable Ganon.
Yeah, we're probably going to get that eventually as DLC. I can see that happening. We also are probably going to get to play as the king, now that I think about it.
He's got big shoes to fill in for, because, man, playing as the king from Wind Waker and Hyrule Warriors is so fun.
Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, that's the weird thing, because how canonical do they want to make the characters in that game? That's what I'm wondering. Because if they don't actually care of, like, yeah, these main cast and how they appear in the story are canon, but the rest of the cast can have elements of just whatever fanfiction-y element you want to it, they could just say screw it and just, you can play as the king, but it's his ghost version from Breath of the Wild. I could see.
It's been a while since I even touched it. See, I didn't think of like even just like costumes of stuff, or like even getting into like kind of the crazy.
Crap, yeah.
Just like even thinking of like the crazier characters of like, oh no, I'm such a bad fan that I forgot this, but the bird type person with the accordion, like someone like him.
Ali, I think.
Yeah, but like thinking of like playing like him, or even like having a skin, or maybe even a clone character of, oh my god, I'm completely forgot the entire Breath of the Wild cast. But like, do you remember the character when you go to Rivali's village and he's basically like the emo version of Rivali?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like they have so many like if you're looking at this trailer, yeah, you would not be wrong in assuming it's just going to be Link, Zelda, and the four champions, which honestly, on its own, that's not a bad
And
list,
whatever that
especially
is.
because of like one of the biggest takeaways on top of that story is everyone loved those champions and just wanted more to do with them. And it's
Yeah.
like I
They
mean,
made amiibo.
yeah, and like there's a reason they're reprinting those amiibos for when the game comes out in November. It's like, A, those amiibos are really really fucking nice and everybody needs them. But it's just one of those things of like those characters, like I remember their stories like so well, and unlike some of the other side characters, I remember everyone. I remember Daruk, I remember Mifa, like I remember Urbosa's fucking sick abs. Like I remember so many like of like that little aspects of like all the characters. I mean, just like little things
Definitely,
of
those
like
are. I feel like a lot of people initially when Breath of the Wild came out, I saw a lot of people being like, "This is the one of the best stories in Zelda." I'm like, no, it's not. The best part of this, in terms of like story, isn't even the story. It's just those characters, and when you get to see them, we just need more of it.
yeah, that's why DLC 2 was such a big thing of like in terms of a story, DLC 2 doesn't really give you that much, but there's a whole reason the whole focus of it is the champions because they knew
Yeah,
everyone wanted more of the champions.
and a
Also,
motorcycle.
also one of the big things people definitely don't ever get to talk about enough. It is a big deal that we will finally get to play as Eyebrow Zelda. Like that Zelda has never had a chance to really shine gameplay wise, and I know everyone wanted to really get a chance to play as her in the original, and especially are wanting to with the sequel. So I'm really kind of excited to see like how do we make an interesting combat mechanic from such a unique Princess Zelda? Because like I
Yeah,
feel like obviously visually she's not as unique as like Spirit Tracks Zelda, but like in terms of personality and like history and story, she's definitely up there.
no, yeah, she's a much more. I don't know if scientific Zelda is the best way to put it, but that's basically what it feels like. It's just a lot less like elegance and more so pragmatic.
I'm just gonna
And you do
wait.
see
I'm just
like
gonna
amazing
wait until they
stuff.
show off the gameplay, hopefully later this month, where it is Princess Zelda starting a battle, and I'm just gonna green screen in that shot of Homer from The Simpsons. Nerd.
Oh gosh. Um. Anyways, I'm ready to play as cross-dressing Link in a Warriors game.
Oh my lord!
That's
You know they have to include cross-dressing Link. Like it's not even an
there's
option.
there is literally no. I make these bets a lot. I'm not gonna go to the same depth I've gone with other times, but if cross-dressing Link somehow is not in Hyrule Warriors 2, I will. I'll buy your copy.
Are you ready for the most evil but true thing you've ever heard?
Mm-hmm.
Cross-dressing Link will not be in the game if you buy a base copy. It will be the season pass
Uh,
bonus item.
I'll still buy your copy.
100%. 100%. It's gonna happen.
Betting on it now.
Um but yeah, man, I am so amazed that this game that less than 24 hours ago I had no idea is existing is at least for me. Like dude, legitimately this is my current like most anticipated game of the year, and it is probably the
I
only thing I could see overtaking my current game of the year.
Okay, here's the thing, because I've been building up a list of like my most anticipated games, and it's been like
Can you read
because
the
it used to
list?
just
Do you
be
have it ready for you?
yes, it is mentally prepared. It is, I believe, in order. It is Persona 5 Scramble, and then like I could swap these around depending on my mood, but it is a dead tie after that between Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Both are two games
Those
not
are
coming
sitting
out
at
this year.
You are correct. So all three are probably games not coming out this year. So, anyways, yeah, that is my most hyped game. Sorry, those were most anticipated games in general. This is my most hyped game of the year, though, as far as what we know. So,
Oh
yeah.
man, all I can say is Nintendo, I trust you. Koei Tecmo, I trust you. There's one thing I have to say. I cannot get on my knees and pray enough. Please, for the love of God, make a collector's edition or at the very least a steelbook for this game. Please, Jesus.
Oh, please.
Like just take that cover, like just take that cover artwork they did, like with the landscape of like the battlefield, and turning that into like a steelbook would be so gorgeous.
I'd lose my mind at that. That is so. Please make a steelbook. Yeah.
Also, I've already like told. I've already like I even messaged Mary this today because like we've been half joking about like I honestly don't need the PS5, but like hey, if I'm in a situation where financially it makes sense and I'm a dumb enough of a fanboy, obviously I'd buy it day one. But what's so funny about it is like, oh, Let's Happy. I didn't see that there's a collector's edition announced. If you could post that in the chat or tag me on Discord, I would super appreciate that. I could try pulling it up on the video. One of the funny things is I even told her, if I had to choose between a PS5 and Hyrule Warriors 2, I'm going to go Hyrule Warriors 2 hands down.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just goes back to, like, best bang for my buck. It's like, no PS5 launch title, I know with, like, a matter of fact, I know no title coming out for the PlayStation 5 or even Xbox is going to have anywhere near as much value and content as this thing's going to have.
Okay, here's the thing. Let's even say that this game ends up pulling like a Scramble, and it's closer to like 30 hours of gameplay. Like it's just like a straight single player go around, which I don't think is gonna happen, but worst case scenario in that regard. Then it's just gonna be like, wow, man, I love Zelda and Warriors. Time to play the original Hyrule Warriors, and I'll just go back to that. Or I'll just replay the game again. I'm fine with either.
Yeah, it's definitely tough because like even a super linear game like that with like with Scramble is still super linear, but that story took me 50 hours to beat, and I haven't even finished more than 30% of the side missions. And that is their most linear game they've ever made.
Yeah.
Alright, so we have no picture, but Let's Happy did post, and also shout out to Let's Happy, who is P5 Scrambled on Twitter. They did announce in Japan we have no pictures. It's about 17,000 yen. It comes with the game, acrylic plate, a blanket, and a metal charm. So that's oddly not the regular Koei Tecmo like treasure box edition kind of includings, but it is still a treasure box edition, which means if anyone out there has never seen a Koei Tecmo treasure box edition, it's like take the world's most large and uncomfortably shaped box ever and just make that into a collector's edition. It's just like, you know how the Persona 5 collector's edition box is like, it's a great box, but it is too awkwardly long to be displayed vertically? That's like every Koei Tecmo treasure box edition.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we get a decent collector's edition here, though.
Bonex brings up a good point. As a Spider-Man fan, and myself included, I'm morally obligated to buy a PS5 just from the Spider-Man game. I mean, like, dude, like, same here. It's like Miles Morales having his own game is also pretty hype, but it's like, it's all checks and balances for me. It's like, as much as I love like Miles Morales, it is one of those things like, I know that game's gonna be there. Yeah, exactly.
Also, how far are we down that list?
We're at number 4. Thanks for reminding me. Sorry, he actually messed up in terms of labeling them. So number 4 got a... Oh, no, number 5 has the number 4 in it. That's why I got confused. Here we go. Okay. So we were saying how the game is so much more story-focused, and it was the word fan fiction that triggered us off on our tangent. Hard to believe that. He also thinks that it is one of the darkest Zelda stories yet due to it being a Torna situation. Xenoblade 2 Torna.
Yeah.
We know that it ends with all 4 champions dying, spoilers, Zelda sacrificing herself to hold Ganon back, and Link falling unconscious. Which, by the way, I cannot wait to, even though I know what's going to happen at the end of Hyrule Warriors 2, I'm still gonna hurt. I'm gonna cry like such a baby.
Well, because that's, like, again, the best scene in Breath of the Wild, and you get it barely. Which, on that note, I actually might... I don't do this often when there is an English dub, but I actually might end up playing this game with the Japanese dub, because Japanese Zelda's voice actress, it's not that the English one's bad, but the Japanese one emotes so much better.
I hope they definitely take notes, because obviously you could tell that like that like the voice direction for Breath of the Wild was definitely uneven.
Yeah, it seems like it's improved in this trailer, but we'll see.
At the very least, I will say I agree with you in terms of that being one of the best scenes. My personal favorite story scene from Breath of the Wild was actually replaced with the DLC from DLC Pack 2 of the group photo shot. Like, hits me in so many feels, it like hurts.
Yeah.
Here we go, though. So, talking a little bit about the story again. How the story is going to seem hopeful, but things will keep getting worse and worse, and the tone matches. Like it just goes back to like look at all the best like stories in so many mediums. Every like story where it usually ends like where going back to our original point. I was going to say Empire Strikes Back, but like look at Infinity War. That is such a bummer fucking ending. But man, if it doesn't get you hyped for the next one, and I wouldn't be surprised if like depending on how the story works out, if immediately after beating Hyrule Warriors 2, I'm not just like, oh, dude, I gotta replay fucking Breath of the Wild 1. Even though Breath of the Wild 1 has so little story in it.
This is the ultimate. So this is basically just the ultimate strategy to get people to buy Breath of the Wild again, as well as Breath of the Wild 2 immediately.
Oh my god, yeah.
Let's go, like, you did it, Nintendo.
I almost wonder if they're going to be smart enough to like make their holiday Black Friday bundle just be, hey, here's a Switch with Breath of the Wild. Also, we have a prequel game that just came out for $60. Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. There's a German dub? I bet the German dub would be great.
Oh yeah. I haven't heard much of it, but I've heard that is actually the best dub.
I always love like seeing like different like countries like dubs of like takes and things for it. Like I remember when Hagane pointed out the Latin America dub for Devil Survivor 2. I checked it out and I was like, dude, this is like surprising. Like I guess the English dub's not that great, but it's like I was like, man, this is pretty fucking good dub.
Yeah.
Our much smaller bit of the list. Here's our last big one, and then the rest of these are pretty rapid fire. Number 6, it's going to have a much smaller roster. Only Link, Zelda, and the Champions, Young Impa, and maybe one or two others, plus potential DLC. Preferably ones that we already have a Breath of the Wild equivalent to, like Tangle. Sorry, we don't have an equivalent to like Tangle, which would be a good point. Obviously, if anyone was going to die in a 100-year-ago war, it would definitely be Breath of the Wild Tangle.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they at least are going to have 10 characters. That seems like the bare minimum you usually get for a Warriors type game, from what I can tell.
Well, what's so funny is that it's always like really, really small or really, really big. And what Hyrule Warriors told me, like if you remember when Hyrule Warriors launched, before it had any DLC or any updates, that's a tiny roster.
Mm.
Like when they have a small roster of characters, it makes them all feel so much more unique and different. Because like when you're looking at games like Warriors Orochi 4, when you have like 150 characters, it's like, what is the difference between these people?
Yeah.
So like honestly, the smaller the roster, the more hype it gets me, especially with like opportunities for like who's it's going to be and whatnot.
I mean, even then, like, I'm looking at the Hyrule Warriors roster right now. Even before DLC, that's still, like, what, 15 characters? Mm-hmm. Which, you know, in retrospect, when they basically doubled that count, yeah, it feels small. But that still is sizable. I don't think they'd limit it to just 6.
No, yeah, for
Granted,
sure.
The thing is, those characters are going to play, like, amazingly.
100%. Interesting, he does also bring up Ganondorf. He says, I think we'll see Ganondorf in that he messes up... in his messed up form from Breath of the Wild 2, but not much of him specifically will be revealed. Breath of the Wild 2 will be teased towards the end of the story, likely a post-credit scenes. I personally like it if it jumps forward to post Breath of the Wild 1, where we see a hole or something open up, and Link and Zelda have to find Ganondorf's underground location. That would be super hype.
Wait. What if they... I was gonna say this feels like a stretch, but honestly, knowing Nintendo and Koei, I could see them doing this. What if, what's the game called? Yeah, Age of Calamity. What if they do just straight up add like a whole other DLC campaign after Breath of the Wild 2 releases?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because if you remember, the first line of the trailer takes place at the end of Breath of the Wild, where, like, remember, it's them talking to you and being like, okay, I think you're ready now to hear what happened 100 years ago. Very clearly taking place, like, after the events of Breath of the Wild 1.
Yeah.
Point number 9 says, I think the voice acting will be much better directed. It was a big point of criticism with Breath of the Wild 1, and I don't see them not addressing that. Point number 10, I really want the adventure mode to return because that is the real game. Adventure mode was the mini map with like the 8-bit stuff, like which is where you
Yeah.
spend hundreds of hours doing everything.
No, yeah, for those of you who haven't played Hyrule Warriors, the campaign takes about, at the longest, like 20, 30 hours. And the actual game is all of the, 9, 10 maps that you play for the adventure mode.
Mirth, I could not agree with you more. This entire like almost 2-hour discussion has just made me want to pop in Breath of the Wild again.
Real quick, as someone who had jumped like straight from the Wii U version of Hyrule Warriors to what is it?
Definitive
to the
Edition?
Switch version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember in the Wii U version, I loved playing the campaign, and I did play, to get the weapons, I did play the regular adventure map. But when it came to the DLC maps, now they're way better balanced. But I remember before, I'm like, this is kind of tedious, and just getting like costumes didn't really feel worth the grind. Now that it's all been rebalanced with the context of having, like 9, 10 maps, that is absolutely just an addicting way to go through that game. Like, it used to be tedium. Now it's, okay, yeah, it's time for the game. Let's go. Time to sink in 900 hours.
Oh yeah, because just like they have so many more things to pad out, because even though the game has all this DLC unlocked from the get-go, to actually play it you still have to sink in time. And especially if you want all of those costumes, like my god, like the amount of costumes out there. And I highly recommend, had him on the show back in March to talk about
Dojo.
Yeah, dude, like just look at all of Warrior Dojo's videos, like going over all the costumes and just all the little like how what you would think would just be like color swaps, like have so many little like cameos and Easter eggs and references to the whole series.
All of them have some really minuscule or specific reference that you don't accept, because at the most part you're like, oh, it's Link, but he's purple now. When it's like, no, they thought a little too hard about this.
I literally, as soon as I saw the trailer today went live, I messaged Shane on Twitter and I said, I've never wanted you to be on the podcast more than possible tonight, if not for the fact that he's literally all the way over in Japan, making that a lot harder to schedule.
Gotcha.
Our final prediction actually comes from Mac's roommate, who says, my roommate wants a mechanic where you play as the champions controlling their divine beast. And like now that I think about that, I was like, oh yeah, because like I forgot all of those divine beasts were tailored for them. Of like, especially when you think of that Hyrule Warriors had the giant beast mechanics from
the Ganon,
as well as like the giant Cucco. Is like, oh well, like obviously you have to have like at least one playable section with like the beast.
Yeah, I mean, they also could go all the way with that concept of, let's say they do, or even if they don't, let's say they do just have like a smaller roster of like 6, 7, maybe 8, and then they instead flesh out the other half of the gameplay and just make it a mech fighter.
I mean, I'm like just as into that as like everything else like I'm thinking about, and like I like the thinking about the champions reminded me of this, of like all the different weapons, how almost every weapon in Hyrule Warriors didn't feel like, oh, I'm hitting someone with a different stick. It felt like
it's a different gameplay style.
Exactly, like imagining how much fun it's going to be using the champion cycle, like just mowing through people.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about. Man, there's a reason why I find Fire Emblem Warriors so subpar. It's because when you've already played Hyrule Warriors and you go back to, hey, look, now you're using an axe instead of a spear, and there's not really that much to it. I'm like, can we go back to, like Ganon uses either 2 swords or a trident, and those are 2 completely different characters, but they feel so satisfying. It's just so much superior as a game.
Mark Louis brings up a great point. It is so strange coming off of Hyrule Warriors, especially that Scramble had no costumes. I thought that was so crazy that there wasn't a single bit of costumes for it. Like, it made sense, obviously. Like, outside of DLC, there's no costumes in regular Persona 5. So that, like, really wasn't, like, a important kind of note for them with it. But it's like, man, there's, like... It is one of those funny things like, oh, Persona 5 has tons of costumes, why didn't you do that? But then it's like, oh, well, they're all DLC. Like, the base game, if all you've ever played is base P5, you've never seen a single costume for that game.
Yeah. That's the weird thing, though, to me, of, like, basically every Warriors game has a pretty massive assortment of costumes, and even if they're all DLC, that's still a pretty big roster of costumes in P5. So it's weird that the baby of both has none.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like a strangely missed opportunity to me.
So before we get into questions and start wrapping up the show, I want to get back to our actual topic that we've kind of been rambling through this entire thing. So, give or take, whenever every game releases, at the end of the day, Ozzy, do you think Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is going to make Scramble look worse by the time it finally releases in the West?
Huh. I would say so for the most part, because they are going to be generally different experiences, but general audiences don't really account for that. I'd say it's like, oh, it's a Warriors game. Okay, let's go. I know Zelda more, and this game, Breath of the Wild is one of the best going games of all time. Sure, let's go for this. Oh, there's this other one that's based on Persona. I've heard that's neat. Already on this one. Okay, then. So, it's a very cynical way to look at it, but yeah. At the end of the day, though, if we look at that title, did Hyrule Warriors 2 already kill Persona 5 Scramble? No. Persona 5 Scramble... No, actually, better way to put it. Atlus West is killing Persona 5 Scramble.
So if we had that, like, meme of the guy sitting in the pew at church with the gun behind the person, and the gun behind that person, the gun behind that person, and the sniper with the gun on that person, it would be Scramble, Hyrule Warriors, Scramble again, Atlus West, and then the year 2020 with the sniper rifle in the pews.
Of course.
Please, if anyone's very bored tonight, if you feel like making that, I'll owe you very, very much.
I really need that on my timeline now.
Oh my gosh. So I guess for my little bit of it, and especially as I'm the one who kind of came up with the episode topic, goes back to like what Ozzy said of like it's hard to have killed what doesn't even exist yet, and not even just due to the fact that it's not announced. It's just like it's hard because it's like we're getting to the point of every day this game doesn't get announced, you're replacing any hype that could be there with like negative emotions of like I know it's such a joke, and especially just because it's like a stupid meme I posted, but like look at that video I posted like a month or something ago from Persona 4 Golden of all of them kicking you. And I was like, this is going to be Atlus when we're looking back at Scramble next year. Because it is just like, there will never be any takeaway, no matter how good or whatever crazy Extreme Legends versions of Scramble is going to come out. That's like, okay, cool. That was worth it. It will always just be a thing of, that was so negatively, like, just detrimental to that whole game. Yeah. And that, like, I'm worried that Atlus West is just going to do the shut up, don't fucking talk about it, shut up. Like, because one of my favorite things is, like, all of the screenshots I have in my phone of people who work at Atlus West who have unintentionally talked about Scramble and then had to delete talking about Scramble. It's like, dude, that must be so hard when you're working on that project of like, oh, well, I can't say what I'm working on, even though literally everyone knows what I'm working on.
There's just an entire crowd just on the sidelines, just kind of looking at your account, just shut up, Spencer, just shut up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love it. Like, honestly, I almost even kind of thought about this of like, on my birthday, I'm like half tempted to like basically make a call out and just say, okay, if Atlus can announce Persona 5 Scramble on my birthday, I'll donate as many like whatever like likes or whatever this tweet will get to like charity. Just be like, all right, listen, if you do this, you're doing it for a good cause. Just fucking do it. I know there's no reason. Just do it. Just do it.
Do it for the kids.
Do it for the kids. It's like that one time. Like I posted, if P5S gets announced before September starts, I'll give Mirth a PS4, which I totally intended on doing. And it was one of those things like, unless Atlus hates Mirth and America.
Well, we got our answer on that front then. Can't believe it.
Confirmed.
Maybe that's why they changed their name to Atlus West.
Yeah, they can't be called themselves Atlus USA anymore when they are this unpatriotic. So yeah, it's a bummer. It's like, as much of anything, it's killed it as well in terms of, like, at the very least, the amount of hype going into this, just because this is a new video game in this similar formula as Scramble and Age of Calamity are going to be like to each other. It's just like, yeah, like, unless this game ends up just being a total wet fart and it's like, okay, well, Scramble's going to be the better game, which I cannot even fathom for a second will be true. It's just going to be like, because imagine this. If Scramble does come out this year, and, like, what's that game of the year conversation going to be like? Oh, shit. Like, now not only is Persona 5 Scramble going to have to justify itself to the Royal fans, it's now going to have to compete with a Zelda game.
Yeah.
Like, that's just going to be, like, a tough situation for it.
I don't know. My thing right now is, while we can look at every cynical angle of this, at the end of the day, we're getting a new Hyrule Warriors and a Persona Warriors game eventually. And I am happy about both. I can't wait to play either.
Yeah, I'm, either way, like, we win in the end. It's just, like, a matter of, like, attrition for us all waiting. Speaking of waiting, thank you all for waiting and, like, being so cool in the chat. This has, like, been one of the, like, least checking in and talking to you guys. So I'm gonna be pulling questions right now from Discord, Facebook, Twitter. If anyone in chat here has any questions, feel free to drop them and I will read them before the end of the episode. But for starters, I'm gonna go to Discord, just because Discord, the SMTN Discord, never gets enough love. So our first question comes from talking about the doggo. The doggo is not our new mascot. I don't know who our mascot would be. The last time we were asked about the SMTN mascot, I think I just said it was Waffles, who did, like, the SMTN character art you guys always see for, like, our socials. But I don't know. If I had to pick, like, a current mascot, it would probably just be, like,
the P5S logo.
No, and this is even more specific. I don't know if Let's Happy would let me do this. If I had to pick a mascot for SMT Network, it would be the Is Persona 5 Scramble translated Twitter account. So I don't know if he would like. I don't know if, like, if Let's Happy wants that, but if you want to, like, put that in your Twitter bio, unofficial / official SMTN mascot, you've got the job for the rest of the year. Enjoy the next 3 months. Perfect. Now, this is an important question. Ozzy, who's your mascot? Who's the Ozzy mascot? Or are you your own channel's mascot?
I think it's seniorish now. I mean, because in a legitimate sense, obviously it's just the stick figure. Like, people will see that and it's like, hey, really, you can't draw? Well, I guess that's what your channel is now. But for me, it is just kind of that thing where people will literally comment like, so where's my seniorish cameo, huh? We're waiting. Where's Toko? Where's the Toko Fukawa?
So, Toko herself saying, please do a video about Trinity Souls. Fun fact, when we first started SMTN, it was called the Persona Podcast, and for our Christmas episode, we were going to make a tradition out of watching every episode on Christmas, like basically one episode of Trinity Souls every year, and see how far we could make it. We made it through one episode. So I would love to go back, and if you guys ever like get like interested or like just like get that bored or there's such a drought for anything, I would love for the unholy trinity of us three.
Unholy trinity.
Yeah, the unholy trinity souls of Seniorish, Ozzy, and myself to finish the dark deed.
Well, because genuinely, there are a lot of video concepts that I'm like, it's very much something that I don't already have an opinion on it, but I really want to go for it. Just this week, I was looking up, like, are there Trinity Soul reviews? Like, there has to be some. And I genuinely couldn't find one that had more than 5,000 views. Because everyone's like, oh, the boogeyman of Trinity Souls, it's garbage. But no one actually talks about it in depth, so I'm like, eventually I have to make a Trinity Souls video. It's gonna happen.
That was like,
there's no way.
That was like when the Persona 5 manga came out, and I did a review for it, and I remember I thought it was so funny of like, oh, I bought this like 2 months after it released. Someone had to have done a video on it. And to this day, almost like 7 months after its release, I think only two people have it. It's me and Kuro from the Midnight Channel. Like, we're the only two who were bored enough to review that manga, which like sucks because that manga's really good.
I've heard good things about it.
But yeah, mascot question over. Our next one comes from Trinity, who says, "How would you want Persona 6 to innovate from the series how it currently is, and what sort of themes/message would you want them to tackle and convey?"
For the first half of that, I'm not a game designer. I have literally no clue.
Listen,
that's the most cop-out answer ever.
Listen, I'm a man who lives in Florida. I can only do so much.
Yeah. Listen, all we have here are beaches and Disney. Both of those are soulless.
And open. They're all open.
Yeah, very, very open. Please don't ever come here. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, I can't think of anything specific. I mean, I know there's like the obvious thing with any turn-based RPG of what if the next game makes it an action RPG? Which, you know, we have 5 turn-based RPGs. I wouldn't hate it. I'd probably be excited for it.
Okay.
But that's about as much as my creativity goes there. In terms of themes, I mean, there's been a history of I write what's essentially a Persona fan fiction of, oh, this would be a really cool theme for it to tackle, and it would do this and this and this. This would be awesome. And then Atlus immediately turns around and is like, hey, guess what the next Persona story is about? So if Persona 6 steals the idea I'm writing right now again, that's gonna hurt a little too much.
I just hope your idea isn't Teens in Tokyo, otherwise I have bad news for you.
Oh no. Actually, okay, the irony is I didn't want to bring it up, but so the story that I'm writing right now, it's like 20% actually Persona and 80% its own thing, but it is legitimately set in Florida. Because I almost tried writing in Japan. I'm like, I don't actually know enough about the culture to do this justice without having to Google 50 billion things.
I've yet
awkward.
to actually meet anybody who wants Persona or even SMT to stay in Japan. It's one of those weird things of like, cool, 25 years of staying in the same country. Way to go, guys.
Okay, but this time we're going to a small town.
I'm going to interject here and answer Mark's question on the YouTube chat. Why does Trinity Souls exist? This is an actual answer. It exists because Persona 3 made money and they couldn't make a Persona 3 anime under budget, so they had to just make a thing kind of related to Persona, and so that's what you got.
Listen, it's there by the single thread of Akihiko.
Oh my god!
And that's about it.
What a nasty thread that even is. Speaking of nasty, I want to get into this so much more, and I know you have a whole lot of thoughts, but I have to ask this question. I'm gonna give my thoughts because I know they're a lot quicker, and try to like truncate yours because I know we could do an entire video on this topic, Ozzy.
Okay.
Jalian says, "What are your thoughts on the pricing of Super Mario 3D All Stars relative to the ambitiousness? And what are your takes on the whole limited production thing? Also, what are you looking forward to most replaying?" So for me, I'm going to answer this in reverse as Ozzy starts having an aneurysm. I'm most excited about Sunshine. I've never actually beaten it. I've played all of these games, but I never owned a copy of Sunshine, even though I had a GameCube. So I'm just really excited to finally like experience this game to completion, because that game, like, I know, like, it has tons of problems for it, but, like, it's just still such a unique platformer, especially for its time, that I'll be really, really excited to play it. And, like, that game comes out 3 days before my birthday. Like, I couldn't be more, like, it's just, like, that's, like, when that game got announced last week, I immediately just sent it to my fiance. I was like, here you go. Here's my birthday game. Just buy this and I'll be like super happy. Like, that's just like a perfect, like, get this game as a gift. Don't worry about me having to actually buy it, and then they have an easy present to pick up. How I feel about the thing, I get a lot of the complaints. I've heard a lot of the complaints. I don't sympathize with a lot of the complaints, just in the sense of, like, Nintendo is a company that is using nostalgia as a profit. Disney does it. So many companies do it. Nintendo's even done it multiple times before. Look at the Kirby Anniversary Collection. Look at Zelda with their release titles. Look at Metroid with the Metroid Prime trilogy. Just like I even retweeted this from Gnarly's tweet. Like Gnarly was talking about how, oh man, this is stupid that Nintendo is doing a limited print thing. It's like, look at 10 years ago. They literally did the exact same thing. They did one print run of Super Mario All Stars on a Wii disc. They charged $50 for a Super Nintendo ROM on a Wii disc with a booklet and a CD. Like, so
Yeah.
at least it's like, yeah, they're known for doing this. It's just like how right it is. It's just kind of how you feel about the whole situation. But Ozzy, I would.
Wii game got a re-release.
Well,
There's at least that.
yes, but guess what? The game's not even out in the West yet. So, like, do you really think they're never going to make a way for this to be bought again? Like, that's the one thing. Is like, guys, they're going to sell this again. We all know it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too much for me to deal with. You're right about the aneurysm. Um, on a more positive note, in terms of like what I'm excited to play, here's the thing about me with Mario. I didn't grow up with mainline Mario. I maybe played like Mario 1 a little bit. The first mainline Mario game that like the first proper platformer I ever
please
played.
tell me it's not Mario on
Completely.
Wii.
No.
Okay.
It was 3D Land, which granted to this day
Oh,
I still think it's one of the best.
that's actually up there with Sunshine. Those are the only two 3D Mario games. Oh, sorry, no, there's three. I never played Land, I never played World, and I never finished Sunshine. Which at least now I'm going to have a chance to finally play World. Which, man, by the way, F's in the chat for Land. Like, I get it, like, to not include Galaxy 2, because Galaxy's already in there, but it would have been pretty cool if they included in the 3D All-Stars 3D Land.
Oh, that would have been so nice. And that actually would have, tied well with 3D World coming, because those games are, again, very similar, but both are friggin' good and distinct enough from one another. But yeah, out of the three that are in the pack, there's the thing with my history, because I didn't grow up with a ton of Mario, because I think after 3D Land, the next proper Mario game I beat was Odyssey. I haven't really played those games much. At most, I played on Wii U up until like a little after Dire Docks on 64, and I never beat it. Great game. I do really want to get back to it. Galaxy, funny story, which is Senor's favorite story of mine. So in second grade, I think it was second or third grade, my friend had Mario Galaxy, and I went over to his house, and he's like, "Oh man, there's this Mario game. Mario's awesome. You should play it with me. It's multiplayer." I'm like, "Oh, awesome. Let me play a game with you." And I was player 2 in Mario Galaxy.
All right, did you enjoy shooting those star bits?
I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, "Am I killing them? What is this?
Little did you know you had just unlocked girlfriend mode. You would never know what it's like to be a girlfriend gamer at that moment.
That's the thing. That's literally the only time I have ever played either Galaxy game. And so now, because of that, among other reasons, even if I get the collection, I am not playing Mario Galaxy until the first time me and Seniors meet up.
I just hope that you still have to play player 2 at this point.
We promise I will not play player 2. Oh man.
You guys actually could make a pretty cool video if you guys do Switch co-op, where you are on the left with the controls and Seniorish gets on the right with the jump buttons.
That would be funny. That would be really funny. I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, out of those three, the one that still excites me is Sunshine the most, because that is the one I've never even touched. It is very much the black sheep, but interests me way more than the others, even still. And I don't know. I just think out of all of the up-res that we're getting through these, it just looks the nicest in terms of the difference. So I'm excited for that.
Now the real $100 question, or $60 question, I should say. Are you planning on buying this September 18th?
Not September 18th, because I don't have money by September 18th.
I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, maybe a little later. But man, it's just a bummer with how they're doing this. I don't get it. Even from an economic standpoint, it technically would sell more if they did just keep it on the market. But who knows with Nintendo now.
I mean, listen, they're going to have to start printing at least 10 to 10 million copies of Hyrule Warriors 2, so they can't have Mario drowning the market.
You are correct. Yeah, is this just their way of giving Hyrule Warriors the legs it deserves?
Mm-hmm. Just wait till you see next year with the how mad people are going to get with the Zelda 3D All-Stars pack, and that's going to only be out for 6 months.
Of course, we're going to get Ocarina of Time Master Quest and nothing else.
I see. My go-to is it's going to be Skyward Sword, not HD remake, just straight up Wii port.
Just Skyward Sword,
and it's still $60.
And you have to use Joy-Cons. There's no other way to play the game.
No. It'll come with a Wiimote Plus adapter that works with the Switch. It's be like, no, we really perfected it back then. There's no point to like downgrade the experience, guys.
No. If you really want to take it old school, what they're gonna do is they're gonna take the Wii approach and just give you a slip cover essentially for the Switch controller. That's just a plastic shell that just makes it look like a Wiimote.
Oh my good lord.
The baseball bat accessory. Let's go.
Oh my god. Well, I know what we're going to be excited for next year. Next question comes from K-Dog, who says, oh no, that was the exact same thing, talking about 3D collection. Let's Happy says, what is the best Scramble song and why is it Daredevil?
I love Daredevil, but the best song is Counter-Strike.
That soundtrack, it's like, it should be illegal to like have to pick one. Like, that soundtrack is just nothing but jams.
That's the thing. Persona, as it stands now, Persona 5 Royal is my favorite soundtrack. I love that soundtrack. However, I haven't spoiled all of it yet, but just from what I've heard and knowing how it's gonna be, and knowing myself, the second that game releases, that's gonna be my new favorite soundtrack. Because for me, with Counter-Strike, all I have to say is it's the rivers in the desert of that game. That already just gets me.
I don't know. Enough. I feel like River in the Desert got just like so like overplayed for me before I ever actually even like saw it with context. That like River in the Desert just will never like be anything for me without the exception of like, oh, it's that song they added 5 times into dancing.
I am very sorry for you, but also. It's still the best thing ever, so you are wrong.
Alright, you're gonna look at me in the eye and say that River in the Desert is better than I Believe with a straight face?
That's a very mean argument, okay? Those are both, like, neck and neck for me in my favorite. Like, those are literally my 2 favorite video game songs.
I Believe still makes me not only want to get up and belt it out like a karaoke song, but will still make me tear up when I think of the context.
That's the thing.
Rivers in the Desert reminds me of a shitty fucking boss fight on a shitty fucking dungeon.
You know what? I can't stand by that. All I'm gonna say is, even before Royal came out, and whenever I rewatched that trailer because I'm a baby, just the scene of like just pure art, because my friends will make fun of me, like I'm just like, yeah, art makes me cry. If art's really good, even if there's not inherently like an emotional thing going on, it makes me cry. Seeing that trailer with just I Believe timed up with like the bus just skidding to a halt and all that, yeah, that gets me every single time. That's like the most cathartic thing in the world. In context in Royal, with how they use it in that cutscene, is just as good, if not better. So that is phenomenal. But on the other hand, and although this means nothing to you, Rivers in the Desert is still Rivers in the Desert. So
also, I'll say this: if River in the Desert was so great, they wouldn't have used it for 2 boss fights. Because the fact that they reused River in the Desert for both Holy Grail and Shido is like, so whose song is this?
I mean, I believe is used twice. Rivers and Desert is more
I believe it's used for the same person though. Like, are we saying River in the Desert is for Mementos, or is it for just Shido specifically?
Okay.
Also, you made a stage about deserts, but the song that has desert in the title isn't in that fucking. Wait, who made the soundtrack?
Listen. Thematically, Shido and the Holy Grail serve the same thematic purpose.
To bring the game down to a total slog and be the worst part of the entire experience?
It's fine.
Man, can you imagine going back to vanilla like P5 after playing Royal? Of like, if it is like, I need to like have a dramatic reading of my text messages to Gnarly. When I was going through Mementos, playing through Royal, I have never been more mad at my time being wasted. I was literally like, this third season better be a all-you-can-eat blowjob festival for the next 30 hours.
And it was.
And it was. It was, but it had a very high bar to reach, and it luckily saved its ass.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. What a conversation we just had.
I know.
That was a ride of emotions.
And who thought we were going to spend more time talking about Zelda this episode?
Yeah.
Here we go. Chugga. Already covered G, already covered that. Here's our last one from Discord. Trinity says, Project Re Fantasy, PS5 exclusive or dual release on PS4?
I know nothing about Re Fantasy. I keep hearing about it. I know nothing, though.
It's still in that nebulous phase of like, yes, they know what it is. Yes, they've talked about it, but like, in a world where people are begging for Scramble and SMT5, like, there's really no point in talking about it outside of like, oh, it's cool. Of like, the only reason Re Fantasy is even talked about at all is because Persona 5 was such a mega hit, that team got carte blanche to be like, okay, if you want to make whatever, you get carte blanche now because you made one of our best-selling games of all time. But since they're not just doing Persona 6, they obviously had to come out a lot sooner and say, hey, we're doing something different. It's a new IP. It's going to be kind of out there and like not like our normal forte. So like that's why it's going to take a lot longer, and like that's why you heard about it so long. And unless you're like one of the like people out there like LaRue in the world who think the game's coming in the next like 6 to 12 months, you're insane. I'm sorry. The game's not coming out until at earliest 2022.
Yeah, but so all we know, I guess, is that it's an RPG.
Yes, it is a very traditional fantasy setting RPG made by the Persona 5 team.
Fair enough. I can vibe with it.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, like if you want to listen to music, the music's there in Catherine Full Body, have at it. Like, I'm sure the game is going to be great, but it's just one of those things of like, when we don't even know what a second of gameplay for something like SMT5 looks like, I just don't really see the point in getting people's hopes up for a game that's going to come out after that game.
Listen, there's only so many Atlus projects that you can fawn over at once before you lose your mind.
I will say this, it will be a dual release. There's no way they're going to commit to new hardware. Atlus is just, they're too much of a cheapskate. They're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. I can see it.
Twitter questions. Twitter question, the first one comes from Kieran Buckley, who says, what are some of your favorite video game soundtracks? I thought this was appropriate since we've just spent the last 5 minutes berating each other on musical opinions.
Of course. My top 3 soundtracks, I'd say, are obviously Persona 5 Royal. Second being...
Why is that obvious? How would I know that?
Because I just said it.
I mean, you also said Scramble is your soundtrack of the year, so are 2 of your choices from the same series?
It hasn't happened yet in my realm.
My top 3 favorite soundtracks: MLB The Show 15, MLB The Show 16, MLB The Show 18. 17 can choke on a fucking bat.
You know, you've got a point. Yeah, but so Royal is number 1 for me. Second is Shadow of the Colossus. That soundtrack is just perfection. Like, it... Because you've played Shadow of the Colossus, right?
Oh yeah, I played all the Team Eco games. I love all their stuff. Yeah, their soundtracks are great. Which, again, I must berate you. I cannot believe you've not played The Last Guardian.
I need to, yeah. You did hype up that game for me of something I was indifferent to something that I am fascinated with more so. Um, but yeah, Shadow of the Colossus soundtrack. If you play the game, you know it. That thing is just in your heart now. And strangely enough, because no one mentions this ever, Portal 2.
Portal
Portal
2's got
2 has
an amazing soundtrack. Yeah, it's a great
it's
one.
going back, like before I kind of found the identity of my channel, which is, being a Persona 5 shill, the second I had a couple ideas for like a video after the first Okumura one, and it was a tie between a video about Edelgard and Three Houses, the one I ended up making, which was the tier list video of characters, and a video going over the soundtrack of Portal 2. Those are like the three. I don't know if I'd still make that video now because it's a very particular topic that would be kind of weird to make a full video on, but it's worth it. That is a very good soundtrack.
I can see that. For me, top three in no particular order. Just going off of things that are kind of sticking out of my brain. Scramble, followed by Death Stranding, like has just like
Yeah.
such an amazing original soundtrack, let alone all the licensed tracks.
I really need to finish that game.
Trying to think, like there's and I know this is such a cop out, but like they all are just so amazing. The entirety of Danganronpa, probably V3 if not Ultra Despair Girls, but like all of those games have like such a sick fucking soundtrack. Memorable shout out just because I've still not heard all of it because I need to play through the game all the way. Persona Q2, just the more I listen to it, it has such an amazing soundtrack.
Persona Q2, like, even the quote-unquote worst battle theme out of the, like, 4 they have, is still a complete bop. And then there's 3 that are infinitely better. That one's really freaking good.
Oh, Senorish, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to cut... Okay, here, I'll do this, just to make... oh, this is tough. I'm cutting Danganronpa because it gets its own category, and I am giving it just one. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Holy fuck, that game has a great soundtrack. Oh my god, what a great soundtrack.
That's another one that's still on my list of actually just finally beating. But man, because I always have this thing of, there's this part of my mind where I'm like, I don't know if there are many songs that are gonna hit in games that are just gonna stick with me in an iconic way. Xenoblade was one that immediately I entered Gower Play and I'm like, yep, this is in my brain forever.
I hate this podcast. It's 2 hours of Adam and bad opinions.
No!
Oh my god. Oh, Nier Automata is a great one. Yeah, top 3 is just so hard. Like, there are so many amazing soundtracks. It's not even fair. Like, I didn't even bring up, like, any indie games, really. Like, there are too many great soundtracks in the world.
Shovel Knight. That's just Shovel Knight. That's all I'm gonna say.
Let's see. Next question comes from Anime for the Win 999. What are the chances of? Oh, sorry, no, we've already answered that one. But he does say, will Atlus reprint some of their games with certain Megaton games going up in price? I actually asked Atlus this. Atlus West. I just sent him an email. I haven't heard back yet for something else I was asking. It was like, hey, as you guys have probably noticed, a ton of your 3DS games are just disgustingly expensive. Oh my god. Sorry, in the chat mentioned no mention of SMT4 or Silent Hills. That is an actual travesty. Or Zelda OSTs. Yeah, too many songs I didn't mention are going to be bad. But yeah, so I asked them because there are companies who, like, you can still reprint 3DS games right now from Nintendo. I hope there's another run. At the very least, I would say, I think if they just did like what they did with Yakuza a couple of years ago, partner up with some distributor and just be like, okay, we're going to do one last print run of every SMT game on 3DS, it would sell out like hotcakes. Just because, like, give everybody one last chance. That system's going in the garbage bin afterwards anyways, and then everyone had at least one last chance to be like, oh my god, okay, we got to get this.
On that note, not going into too many specifics, I did get I am getting my copy of Persona Q2 soon.
Yeah, the scumbag prevails. All right.
It is genius, but yeah, I'm not gonna delve too much into that topic right now.
I know, it's like, if it wasn't for like the lack of like a not weird way of displaying how to like do that, let alone as soon as I say it publicly, then everyone will try and
Yeah,
do it. It's just one of those things of, hey, if you try really hard enough and think about it, you can find copies of Persona Q2 online.
if you want to be very if you want to think of a really good loophole and want to be very morally gray, you definitely can get a cheap copy of Persona Q2.
Oh my gosh. So next question comes from Persona Forever. Says he and also P4, he always likes to do rapid fires. So I'll let you take all these ones. First off, how are you doing tonight?
I am good.
Do you think we will see the English dub of Scramble when it releases in February of 2021 or not?
Uh,
So will the game come out with the dub or not?
yeah, most likely, yeah.
Like Persona 4 Gold in the animation, do you think that Atlus will do one of Persona 5 Royal?
Mm, Part of me almost feels like if they did a royal animation, they might honestly, instead of taking the golden approach of making it like the new game plus just snippets of the game and the new content, I could see them just remaking the anime. Maybe that's my most optimistic take here because that's what I really want because I don't want to be left with Persona 5 the animation. Um but I could reasonably see them because of how much more involved third semester is, them just going from scratch and moving forward. Make it 2 seasons. I'd be fine with that.
I'll go back to what I said during my review a couple of weeks back. On paper, it should be a slam dunk. Like, yeah, like Royal is the best form of that story. Go tell it. Unfortunately, like that anime like failed on critically, fan reception wise, and even financially. Like they didn't even really like do that much outside of like, oh, we tried doing some merchandise, but even if you notice, like there's no more animation merchandise really coming out anymore. So like it just didn't really do it for them. And obviously its Western debut is not going to be any different. So I just think they can't justify it, or at least Atlus would have to go find a whole nother studio to work on it.
Hey guys, maybe actually hire A1 this time instead of Cloverworks. They actually do good art.
Enjoy your one episode by them then with the Daybreakers, which also
Uh,
not even on the complete animation box set for $300.
you're right. Also, it doesn't look that good either.
Yeah. Jackpot, or our final question on Twitter for the night, says, "What Atlus game do you think needs remade, meaning from the ground up and overhauled in a modern game engine the most?"
Honestly, I think Mac has been like weeding a worm into my brain as of recent because the first thing that did pop into my mind was just Digital Devil Saga. Or not Digital uh yeah, yeah, Digital Devil Saga.
The duology would be so awesome to like finally see realized, but like that's like almost one of those cases of like a Final Fantasy VII situation. Like, man, to see that as a total from the ground up remake, I almost don't think that Atlus has the budget to give that game the AAA kind of realization that like fans have always sort of wanted for it.
Yeah, it's not gonna live up to what they need. If it was a thing though, and they did handle it that way, ooh, the
Man,
ultimate pipe dream.
I mean at the very least I'll take whatever scraps I can take for even like baby HDified things. I will say this, I think they could do a pretty cheap remake of SMT 1 and 2 for pretty
Mhm.
good, like from the ground up, make new assets for everything, but just kind of keep everything else the same. Like even if you don't add voice acting, I think you could still make that a compelling package considering how inaccessible for the majority of people are, since those are only on emulators.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Well, our final question from the night comes from Andre Harrell, Facebook mod, says, "All right, here is one question for you. Out of the small pool of actors Atlus uses, who do you think is going to be in Nocturne? Also, do you think Atlus will get Dante's voice actor or replace him with somebody else?" I'm going to say Atlus West hopefully went through the trouble of actually getting DMC2 Dante's voice actor, and at the very least,
Please.
DMC5 Dante will give a very hammy performance for him.
I While it would be very awesome if they did get the original VA, there is more of me that does want, again, the new VA to try and replicate that original feel and just see how it sounds. That is totally fine by me. In terms of who I expect from like the P5 cast to end up in Nocturne, one, Matt Mercer's going to be there. That's that's just expected. I kind of do want what's his name? Why am I blanking on this? Ryuji's voice actor.
Oh, Max Middleton.
Yeah, Max Middleman. If they get Max Middleman to show up as, I know, oh that would be really good. I know they got I was talking to my friend Victor about this when they were showing off the voice acting for all the demons in Nocturne, where he was very much predicting, now that we're getting voice acting, do you think we're going to get the very stereotypical cackling skeleton voice? And very much so. I think that's what we got from Matador. Of just, if they got Max Middleman to do that, that would be a dream come true of comedic proportions.
Oh my gosh. It's tough for me to kind of pick just because I'm in that thing of like we talked about a little bit last week with the trailer of like I know because they pick from the same pool of people over and over and over, but like I don't know, it would be like I want to see someone I've never seen before, but I can't really predict someone I've never really seen in the industry, which is just that kind of self-eating snake like problem.
Yeah, it's you're hoping that we actually get new faces to really show off what they can do. It's not gonna happen on any major scale.
No. At the very least, I am proud to announce I just got the clear from Atlus West. I can confirm I do the voice acting for Rido in Nocturne Remastered. So please feel free to spread that however you will.
You're treating this like it's a surprise.
I know. He's just as talkative as me, so obviously only one man from Kansas made sense to voice him. And also, yes, their budget did run out, and I did accept forms of payment in food stamps.
All that makes me think of is just those memes of like, all my friends tell me I look just like Joker from Persona 5.
Oh, my God.
All my friends tell me I look just like Rido Kuzunoa.
Every time I've like ever, just because like I've seen him so many times in person, every time I've ever seen Harley, be like, I'm thinking of like cosplaying this dude. He's like, yeah, it's a white guy with brown hair and glasses. It's gonna be a real stretch to cosplay.
That does remind me. The one time it was Halloween, but it basically was just cosplay at the end of the day. Have you ever seen Kiki's Delivery Service?
Oh my god, yeah, I love it. It's top 3 Ghibli movie.
Here's the thing. I went with my friend Bella for Halloween for like an event, dressing as Kiki and Tombo, and literally all I had to do was buy a striped shirt. And it was perfect. I just look like them.
That was I now I'm just sad because I doubt there are pictures of this, but at the ssame time, if I mailed you a striped shirt, you probably still look like him.
Oh, I do. I mean, I can send, because like, when we were Googling me earlier out of curiosity, don't do that, by the way. I've just incited a hellscape. I did see an image of myself. It's like the one image I've shown of myself online. And I don't know if you've seen it. I could send it to you right now. It is a picture of me holding a football. But it's, if you want to show it on the stream, you can. I'll send it through Discord. It's just this. And I'm not going to answer any questions you have about the context.
Now you've really left me wondering. If it's really good, I'll just make it the episode art title. What is it? Now I want to make this the episode art even more of just this picture.
Please do not.
Of just this picture followed by like Alright, so is it okay if I throw it on the YouTube video at least to show people?
Okay, throw it on the YouTube video. If you want, you can put it as like a very small, like cutout snippet in the thumbnail art. I'll send you a cutout of it.
Basically, and I'm gonna hopefully be able to show everybody this. Basically, right now, let's see, what is the least incriminating way I can show this picture? Okay, here we go. Let's just pull this up on
Oziach. This is from like 2 or 3 years ago, by the way.
This is
closer to like 2.
This is fantastic. Here we go.
This
We're
image
going
to
terrible. Window capture. Gonna name this cringe and just put that right there. All right, everybody. Enjoy this. Here's his new final form. So basically, what you're telling me here is.
No, I think you gotta zoom in on that because they can't even see the greatest detail of it.
That's true. I gotta get in deep, and the only way to zoom in, really, the most effective way with OBS is just to extend it as large as humanly possible to overtake the entire screen. So basically, what we're looking at here is if Persona 5 Scramble was the football, you're Atlus West wondering what went wrong and how did you even start to begin with.
Beyond that, it's is it too much to go into the story behind it? Because
you're literally the only thing on the video right now, so I'd hope not.
Yeah, because without going too much into it, because the mystery is very good, that's not a real football. That's made of chocolate. And that was in my house 6 years, and I didn't even realize it was fake until it fell.
I have so many questions. So was this, like, in between, like, fever dreams of, like, plowing through Wattpad girls, or like what led to the football falling?
It was like because it was in my brother's room and he had moved out for 2 years. And
of course, it smelled like chocolate football. Who wouldn't want to move out?
No, hear me out. Because it was in this packaging that was like a cardboard box with plastic around it, but it was propped up like a regular football. But for some reason, I never actually read the packaging because it was like really weirdly formatted. So I thought it was just like a football that he just had as like a commemorative thing. Because in retrospect, I see it, but it just looked like a real football. And I was like, well, I don't want to touch this stuff. And one day, like a year, like after you got back or something, I was moving some stuff around, and I look at it, I'm like, wait, this is chocolate? And it fell. It didn't fall because I realized that. It just like fell as I was moving stuff.
It fell because you were looking at it too hard.
Exactly. And so and stupid as images, but the context is literally like, it would be really funny if I just took this picture just like this, and then I did it.
Jesus Christ.
This is like the Mona Lisa of photos. There's so much to unpack in that expression. You could write essays on it.
Well, you could definitely.
It was like 6 years old.
You could definitely do a lot with it, but I mean, I think we could just sit here and just kind of look at that for a good long minute and just just let that sink in for everybody.
You know what, guys? This is all I'm gonna say. If you see any YouTuber or some mythic figure who's like someone to greatly look up to and they've achieved something major, this is me. This is me.
I want you to know, like, you know how like certain personalities always have that one photo everyone always goes back to. If you ever have like a great downfall or whatever, or like something terrible ends up happening in your life, or we need a picture for an obituary, it will be this picture, and it'll be local Florida man and Persona 5 fanatic Ozzy took his life in the Steak and Shake the other night.
I really hope the screenshot gets posted on my Twitter 5 times the moment I get off the stream.
Oh, man. Who could see anything bad with this happening, am I right? That's amazing. Now, what I need to ask, who took this photo?
Me.
You just saw that and were like, you know what? I need a selfie of this. This just needs to reflect now.
I propped up this photo in such a perfect way to where it kind of looks like I'm taking it, but not really. But it's still, I have so much concentration on that football that you're like, how did he even get the photo? You would think he was too distracted. I don't know.
Jesus. Well, in here we thought this was just going to be your normal everyday episode of the SMTN podcast. So thanks Nintendo for making this football chocolate photo happen.
Yes, it's all Nintendo's fault. Buy Hyrule Warriors 2. This is your new pledge.
Oh my god. Now what we need to have happen, if Scramble doesn't come out or is announced by the time Hyrule Warriors 2 is announced, we are recreating this picture and you're just going to be holding a copy of Hyrule Warriors 2 with the exact same shirt.
I'll replicate it as much as I can. That's a promise I can keep.
Oh my good lord. Well, thank you so much for coming on to this train wreck, and thank you everybody for watching the entire time. This was I'm sure this will somehow be the most it's funny because it's like the last episode you were on had equally little news, but we somehow found a way to like go on like a train wreck of a disaster, and I think we've somehow like topped it this time, even though we had a subject.
Yeah. That's the thing, because it always seems to spiral into some unknown, horrific place. Last time it was Steak and Shake, and that's still my favorite thumbnail you've ever done. No bias there.
Thank you.
It's just pure art. And this time it delved into you bashing rivers in the desert and the chocolate Aussie photo. So, things happen in ways you don't expect in life.
Oh,
maybe Scramble will get that big release.
Yeah, just after this. Yeah, once this episode hits it big, or I finally hit over 1K subs, that's what Atlus was waiting for. They're like, we got it, boys, bring them in.
It's finally happened. Subscribe to Spencer's channel. It is a grand old time.
Well, Ozzy, if people would like to track you down and harass you for being #1 Persona fan with chocolate football, where could they track you down?
You can go to my channel. It's Oziach. Simple. You just write it. That's how you look things up on YouTube. On Twitter, I'm Revived Oziach. I retweet things way too much and have had a tendency of writing really stupid crap that keeps blowing up this week. I don't know why. And yeah, that's about it. Don't look up anything else that has my name attached to it, please.
If you're one of his many, many past lovers, please do not contact the authorities. They've already been alerted. We don't need any more submissions. We've hit max capacity.
Oh no. Actually, never mind. I'm not gonna say that.
No, now you have to say it. What out of all the garbage we've said this episode, what could be worse?
Well, because I didn't want to say I didn't notice it. And I didn't bring it up.
We already have one of your exes in the chat. Senorish has been here the whole episode. What's the problem?
No, unironically, not Senorish. No joke though. And they are still like one of the coolest people ever. So they're gonna be flattered by that and text me in like 10 seconds. But no, yeah, one of my ex-girlfriends is literally in the chat right now. I'm not even gonna point out who they are.
Shout outs to Pi Studios, dudes. Great to have you in here. Thanks for coming to the chat.
You got it.
So basically what we're saying is unless you out yourself, we all could probably be Ozzy's ex. So I might even be Ozzy's ex. We don't even know.
What? Have you ever seen Inception? You know how the ending is very like vague of like, but is or isn't it a dream? That is the question I want to leave you guys with before we end this podcast. Are you my ex? Are you?
Could you be the one? Are you the one? Were you already the one? Did I blow it in high school? We'll have to know. Matt B brings up a great point. We're all Ozzy's ex at the end of the day. No, exactly. we might not be now. We might be in the future. Anyone could be his ex. It's
exactly the ultimate takeaway. But really, I wouldn't blame you for being the ex of that football picture. That's get away from that.
Oh my god. Any other anyone else out here or any other places you want to plug?
So I have this really cool YouTube channel. It's called Shin Megami Tensei Network, otherwise known as Spencer Presley. I think you should really check it out. It's got some cool stuff on there.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you even having my own problem of confused SEO-ness. So, yeah, if you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, it'd be most appreciated. We're stupidly close to 1,000, which is crazy, crazy, crazy. Besides that, you can check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. What do you? You just distracted me there. I'm doing my spiel. I'm used to doing it with no one. Sorry. You can join the Facebook group by going to facebook.com/group/SMT network. You can join the Discord. Links are below. Follow on Twitter at SMT Network, and also you can follow my personal Twitter at Torchwood4SP. And yeah, I think if I record this episode any longer, my fiance is just going to actually murder me. She's just standing here ominously. So I think it is time to end the episode before we dox ourselves anymore. How's that sound?
Sure thing.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Ozzy, for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for, you know what, just putting up with that. Just everything that just happened.
All of it.
In case you're wondering if it was all worth it, yes, this will be tax deductible. You'll be getting an email after the show. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Perfect. Thanks, Phoebes. Woo.
Oh, man. Now I've got to know who the...